Welcome today to the regular meeting for LAUSD Redistricting Commission for Wednesday, October 13th at 4 p.m. Andrew, let's begin with the roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Dahan?
Present.
Commissioner Franco is currently absent. Commissioner Gruhl?
Present.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Present.
Commissioner Hurtado?
Present.
Commissioner Johnson?
Present.
Commissioner Lopez Ledesma is excused. Commissioner Lundquist?
Present.
Commissioner Repenning is currently absent. Commissioner Antonio Sanchez?
Present.
Commissioner Waite?
Present.
Vice Chair Ambris?
Present.
And Chair Sanchez.
Present.
We have 10 members, Mr. Chair, and a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go to any disclosure of ex parte communication from commissioners.
I have some.
Commissioner Dahan? Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see. I had two. So my communication was with City Council President Mayor Martinez's Chief of Staff, Akli Padilla. We spoke on just, sorry, I'm trying to remember the first time. I know it was 8:30 a.m. Sorry. Oh, Monday. 8:30 a.m. on Monday to provide an update on the process and where we were at after our 3 public hearings. And then we also spoke again today because I had follow-up information. He had a question about one of the maps and I had follow-up information to provide, and we spoke today at 10 a.m. So I was able to answer a follow-up question that he had from our Monday conversation. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Dahan. Is there any other commissioners with ex parte communication? Okay, so any discussion with neighborhood council representatives about an impact report today, Andrew?
I do not see any of the neighborhood council representatives currently present.
Okay.
And as previously discussed, we had received a community impact statement from the West Side Neighborhood Council as well as the Encino Neighborhood Council. We did receive an updated community impact statement from the West Side Neighborhood Council, who was in support of the district lines between districts 4 and 1 in the West LA area.
Okay, thank you. So let's move now to agenda item or multiple agenda item public comment and general public comment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. In conformity with State Law AB 361, September 16, 2021, and due to concerns over COVID-19, the Los Angeles Unified School District Redistricting Commission meetings will be conducted entirely telephonically. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment via Zoom webinar on the items listed on the agenda should click on the raise hand function to request to speak. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment via phone on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 161-077-4991 and then press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak. At this moment, we do have members of the public that want to give public comment today, and I'd like to turn it over to the city attorney for further direction for the public.
Thank you, Gladys. To members of the public calling in to provide comment to the commission, when it's your turn to speak, we'll announce your name or the last 3 digits of your phone number or your identifying information. When you announce your name, number, or identifying information, then you're live in the meeting and it's your turn to speak. Please immediately unmute yourself. You'll have 1 minute per agenda item to speak for up to 3 minutes total. After we announce the number of minutes you have to speak, please begin speaking. We'll let you know when your time is up and we have to move on to the next speaker. When speaking on agenda items, you must be on topic. If you're not speaking on an agenda item, or if we cannot tell whether you're speaking on the item, you'll get a brief warning from me, the chair, or the executive director. If you do not immediately get back onto topic, we'll be forced to forfeit the rest of your time and move on to the next speaker. To members of the public calling in to speak, we understand you may be listening to the broadcast of the meeting on the internet or another device. Because there's a time delay between the live broadcast and the meeting, please keep one ear on your phone so that you can hear when we announce your name, identifying information, and you can immediately unmute yourself. Otherwise, we may think you're no longer in the meeting and move on to the next speaker. Also, if you're listening to the meeting on the internet or another device, please immediately turn down the volume of that broadcast because there's a time delay which causes feedback and confusion. Finally, I'd like to warn you, commissioners and members of the public, that some members of the public may choose to use modes of expression that can be offensive or vulgar, including the use of racial epithets. Some of that content is First Amendment protected speech, and there's little that we could do but hear it. Members of the public, however, may choose to turn down the volume of the broadcast if they do not wish to listen to any such offensive language or vulgarities. With that, I'll pass it back to the chair.
Okay, so why don't we begin with our first set of speakers?
Okay. First speaker by the name Brenda Ortega. Can you please unmute yourself and state the item you'd like to speak on?
Oh, wait, hold on, Gladys. Actually, let's just do an announcement real quick before. This is do an announcement.
Okay.
The Spanish interpretation announcement. Let's do that first.
Hola, solo para avisarles que la reunión va a ser en inglés, pero si necesitan escuchar interpretación en español, va a ser en esta reunión. Nada más tienen que ir en la parte posterior de la pantalla, va a hacer clic en el globito donde dice interpretación y va a elegir el idioma español. Gracias.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Gladys. Sorry.
Thank you, no problem. Caller by the name Brenda Ortega. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm speaking on item 2. Hello,
Okay.
commissioners. My name is Brenda Ortega, and I am a community leader in Boyle Heights. I am here asking that you please keep District 2 the way that it currently is. Eastside residents fought 10 years ago to create a district where they can actually be represented. That is what District 2 is. We were able to create a district that pushed equity through LAUSD. This district is not only fighting for the best interests of our students in District 2, but looking to push the equity agenda through LAUSD. District 2 was the champion in the fight for CENI. This was a formula that was developed to allocate funds into schools with an equity lens. We have made a lot of progress, but we still have more to work towards. Please keep District 2 the way that currently is. Give us a chance to continue pushing equity through LAUSD. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next caller by the name Henry Perez. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Yeah, good afternoon. Item number 2. My name is Henry Perez, and I am the Associate Director of Inner City Struggle, and I'm also an Alley Unified School District parent. Inner City Struggle represents hundreds of students and parents in the Eastside communities that have been members of Inner City Struggle for over 2 decades. We strongly urge the Commission to keep District 2 as it is in its current configuration. As I have stated before, do not address your concerns with District 5 by negatively impacting the Eastside communities of District 2, because that is exactly what you are doing. By adding more affluent communities with very different interests than the current communities of District 2, you are diminishing the voice of Eastside communities. I hear community members from the Southeast saying that the Eastside communities want the Eastside to stay together and that the maps do that. I want to be very clear that that is not what we are lifting up. What we are lifting up, what we are saying is keep District 2 as is. The Eastside has been a strong voice.
For your comment, your time is up. Next caller by the name Bridget. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Can you all hear me?
Yes. Can you please state the items you'd like to speak on?
Yes, I will be speaking on item 2. Hello, Commissioners. My name is Bridget Placencia. I am a longtime resident of Lincoln Heights and an alumni of Lincoln High School. I am here asking that you maintain District 2 the way that it is. In the last 10 years, we have worked together as District 2 to be a voice for racial equity and educational justice to undo the historical neglect our students have faced. District 2 advocated for A through G for all and won. Now my nieces will be college ready when they graduate high school next year. Overcrowded high schools were a problem when I attended schools. My nieces are now in classrooms that aren't as overcrowded due to the new schools campaign that was won. The schools that were deteriorating and outdated are now getting the facelifts they needed through the school's modernization project. Many victories have been won over the decades that have set the students on District 2 path. The struggles continue in our communities that have a history of disenfranchised schools. I want to end by saying this. I keep calling at meeting after meeting because this isn't a want for me, this is a need. My 2 children will be LAUSD students next year, and the outcome can either have a negative or positive effect.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next caller by the name Jasmine. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on? Caller by the name Jasmine. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. What items would you like to speak on?
Item number 2.
Okay, you have a minute.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Garcia, freshman at Roosevelt High School. I had lived in Boyle Heights all of my life. Today, I'm here asking the commissioners to please keep our District 2 as it currently is together so we can continue to fight for more money to come into schools with higher needs. Community has been able to come together in this district to get schools equitable fundings coming into our schools. They have been able to get together and fight for the implementation of A through G to ensure that we are all able to go to college. They have been able to accomplish a higher graduation rate. This is a district that fights and cares for my best interests and for the best interests of Black, Brown, Indigenous students of color. I want to be able to be in a district that cares for me and fights for my higher education.
Thank you very much for your comment. Your time is up. Next caller by the name Gary Fordyce. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Yes, I do not have an agenda, but I want to speak on the maps 1B.
Okay, Mr. Chair, would that be considered as general public comment or should we give him a minute?
That's item number 3.
That's item number 3, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay, so that's item, okay, so you have a minute.
Thank you so much. I have sent an email to the entire commission. I am pleading in behalf of the community of Council District 12 and basically the Northwest Valley. We're pleading to have equity for the first time in, well, at least 50 years, that Gled Hill Elementary and Monroe High School, James Monroe High School, be included in Board District 3, providing equity to the people that have that live in this area and their children go to the school and yet are served by every public service except Board District 3 for the community that they actually live in, and keep everything together, make the West Valley whole, Northwest Valley and North Hills West whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next caller by the name Graciela Ortiz. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes. What items would you like to speak on?
I'll be speaking on item 2 and 3.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, or good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Redistricting Commission. I'm Graciela Ortiz, Mayor of the City of Huntington Park. Now that the public hearings are over, the most difficult task is ahead of you. You've heard from community members from Southeast LA, East Side, East LA, Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, El Sereno area. And one thing is clear, we all want to make sure that our communities have a voice on the LAUSD school board. It's clear that the elected officials from the Southeast LA communities are united in saying that we will not continue to watch our communities be part of a gerrymandered map that disenfranchises the children in our communities. Throughout these meetings, you've heard from city council members from Huntington Park, Bell Gardens, Commerce, Maywood, and Mr. Gil Hurtado from Southgate, who's doing an amazing job advocating for the Cella communities on this commission. Now is the time to understand that the East Side communities and Southeast LA communities will demand a voice. So I'm asking respectfully to please consider a fourth map. We can work off of 1A and please consider adding Florence Firestone to the Southeast communities, as the children and families in Florence Firestone already consider themselves part of Cella, and many Florence Firestone children attend Huntington Park and Southgate schools. I thank you for your time, your hard work, your dedication in providing a voice to Southeast LA communities and East LA Boyle Heights communities. Please consider making changes to map 1A so that we have equity for all our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next caller by the name Jessica Panduro. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Hi, good afternoon, commissioners. I'll be speaking on item 2 and general comment.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jessica Banduro. I'm Nina, a tia to a student attending Evergreen Elementary. I'm a graduate of Roosevelt High School and a long-term resident of Boyle Heights. This work is really important, so thank you all for taking on the mission on creating a district maps that will be impacting the next 10 years. I am here to continue to uplift the need of District 2 to remain in the configuration that it currently is. Eastside residents fought 10 years ago to create a district where we can actually be represented. That is what District 2 currently is. It was not an easy process, and here we are today defending and requesting you to keep this district as it currently is. Through this map, District 2 has been able to lead the fight for educational equity with the support of students, parents, and residents from the community. Our fight for equity is not only for District 2, but for all students of LAUSD. In the last 10 years, we have worked together as a district to be a voice for racial equity and educational justice, to undo the historical neglect of our students that our students have faced. So for this recent ride, I ask you all today to please keep District 2 the way that it currently is, so it could continue to give us a chance to fight towards racial equity and educational justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next caller by the name Karina Macias. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Yes, good afternoon. I would like to speak on item technically 2 and 3.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and commissioners. My name is Karina Macias. I'm a council member for the city of Huntington Park. Earlier today, I did send a PDF file of an alternative district lines for District 5 using map 1A. I know this decision is not easy. I know we've been going, you've heard from comments from the community on map 1B, which is a chosen one for us that would work for Board District 5, but we haven't an opportunity to meet halfway to get a middle ground. If you look at that map in the PDF file, you'll see alternative lines for Board District 5, where Hollywood Hills, East Hollywood, Los Feliz, Griffith Park are moved to Board District 4, and Koreatown and Florence Firestone is moved to Board District 5. Sorry, I think this is an opportunity that it's imperative to see the change from lines that have been undermining our communities for over a decade of the same thing. And I want to make this clear, as we've made it clear before, there is no desire for our communities to disenfranchise others in this process. But I think this provides a middle ground in a possible discussion for change for Board District 5. Again, I thank you for your time, and I appreciate everything that will provide for this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Any other members that would like to speak? You can go ahead and please click on the raise hand function to request to speak. Okay, next caller by the name Honorable Eddie de la Riva. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to speak on item, I think it was 1 or 2. I'm sorry. My name is Eddie de la Riva, councilor in the city of Maywood, and I would have to agree with, I'm calling, because I agree with the statements that were just made by Ms. Karina Macias. These maps, unfortunately, aren't very equitable and not representative of the communities in the Southeast, like Maywood. And that we're asking for something that is truly representative of our students and their needs, and that will ensure that they are being addressed. We ask for a common ground to be found and a compromise to be found, so that all of our districts and that all of our kids are properly served, and that our voices are being heard at the same time. I thank you for this difficult work you're all doing, but very important work. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next caller by the name Omar Quiñones. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, what items would you like to speak on?
On item 2.
Okay, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Omar Quiñones. I'm here. I'm born and raised here in the Florence Firestone District. I was hoping that you guys could consider moving our district, Florence Firestone, into the District 5, so we could be united with the Southeast community as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comment. Mr. Chair, would you like to give it a couple more seconds?
Yeah, just a couple seconds before, there we go, 1 more.
Next caller by the name Oscar Magana. Magana, can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Hi, thank you. I'm speaking on item 2.
Okay.
My name is Oscar Magana. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have 1 minute. Go ahead.
I'm speaking on item 2. My name is Oscar Magana. I am the current chair of the board of directors for Hub Cities, which is a joint powered authority here in Sela, representing several cities here in Sela. And I am calling in support of map 1A with the additions that were recommended that would add the Florence Firestone area into map 1A. For years, our community here on LAUSD has not been equally represented by people who are from our community. What ends up happening is that usually folks from Northeast LA end up representing our community on the district. We don't want to disenfranchise anybody. We want to make sure that everybody has equal representation. But we do want to ensure that the Southeast LA community is represented by people who live in Southeast LA, so that the students in Southeast LA get the representation that they deserve. Thank you so much, and you all have a great day.
Thank you so much for your comment. Next caller by the name Ana Godoy. Can you please unmute yourself and state the items you'd like to speak on?
Hello, I'm speaking on item number 2.
Okay, you have 1 minute. Proceed.
All right. Sorry, item number 2 and general comment as well.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Perfect, thank you. Hello, my name is Anna Godoy, and I've lived in Southgate my entire life. For the past 4 years, I've also been working with students and parents in the East Side. I'm here talking on item number 2 and to uplift the importance of why Board District 2 should be left as is. I've heard from my fellow Southeast neighbors about the need for fair representation for Board District 2, but map number 1 is not the answer, and instead, I encourage commissioners to redraw the map where both Board District 2 remains the same and 5 can get the fair representation they deserve. The Northeast region that includes Atwater Village is not a community of interest that reflects Board District 2 or 5, and it would be a disservice to pawn that region to these communities. Board District 2 has a rich history of battles they've endured to fight for education justice, but that does that can all be lost at the expense of one map. Commissioners should draw and create a new map that doesn't lump communities, that does not reflect the communities of interest found in both Board District 2 and/or 5. Commissioners, you have the power to think outside of the box, to uplift voices in both Board District 2 and 5. The way you can accomplish that is by leaving Board District 2 as is and to redraw a map that accurately reflects the Southeast as a community of interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Okay, I think we could close public comment. If there's more folks raise their hand, we can maybe go back. So why don't we go now to the items, notice for public hearing. First item 1 is the approval of minutes for the following meetings. A, September 29, 2021, regular meeting, October 4th, 2021, public input hearing. C, October 6, 2021, public input hearing. And finally, October 9th, 2021, public input hearing. Can I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, before we proceed,
Oh, yeah.
items 1B through 1D have not been provided to the commission yet.
Okay.
I spoke with the contractor earlier today, who said we would have those minutes available to us by Friday, October 15th. So at this time, we should only proceed with the adoption or discussion and adoption of 1A.
Okay. Okay. So once again, can I have a motion to approve minutes for September 29th, 2021 only?
I would move approval. This is Wendy.
I'll second.
Okay. Can you do a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner DeHaan,
Yes.
Commissioner Franco, who has also joined us during the public comment period,
Yes.
Commissioner Gruhl,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurtado,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Antonio Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Waite,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ambris,
Yes.
and Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
That's approved unanimously, Mr. Chair, and an 11-0 vote.
Okay, we're going to move to item number 2. Vice Chair, do you have a question? You had your hand up. Sorry.
No, none.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to item number 2, map presentation by individuals, organized groups. I believe we have one presentation.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have one presentation from Sarah Roos. It's actually, she's going to do 2 presentations. She's going to present on her map and then also present Dr. Urrutia's second map that he also submitted as well. So let me pull her in here. Give me a second. Sarah, are you with us? Sarah, are you with us? There she is. We can't hear you yet, Sarah. I think you're unmuted, but we're not getting any audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go. Now we got you, Sarah.
Sorry about that.
Sure. So what I'll do, Sarah, is a couple things. I'm going to pull up your proposed map first. I'll put you on a 15-minute clock for both presentations, and then when you'd like me to switch to the second map, just let me know. Okay.
Is it possible just to share for me to share my screen?
You should. I'd rather do it from my end if you don't mind.
I think it flows better, and Dr. Urrutia had made a presentation that he wished for me to go through. So I'd rather do that first, which leads straight into mine, which is a update of his maps.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and proceed with that, and then if we have any issues, we'll deal with it at that time.
Okay, that'll be terrific. Thank you very much. Let's see.
And in terms of the clock, since I can't pull it up to also share the screen, I'm going to I'll just put you on a clock. I'll let you know when you got 5 minutes left.
How much time? How much time is allotted? Just that way the commissioners know.
15 minutes total.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I'm starting with Dr. Urrutias, who's submitted a map to you, which is basically a compilation of your maps 1 and 2. He wishes to have a little bit of grounding here to note that that LAUSD is larger in area than the city of Los Angeles. And to observe that the 7 districts allotted to LAUSD are really, 3 times the size of the 15 districts that the smaller entity of the city of Los Angeles is comprised of, which is really at the root of some of the difficulty of trying to find a common ground that is comfortable for such a necessarily heterogeneous population that gets stuffed into such a large district. He notes that this 10% threshold of deviation that the commission is charged with resolving is really crossed by these population growth difficulties that have happened in the last 10 years. And so he notes then what is clearly on the table, that there's this opportunity to correct these issues from the current districting, where you have the city of Gardena, which is split in 2. The portions of the Southwest here that are gerrymandered, you have this sort of severe, almost poster child picture of what gerrymandering looks like, with a horseshoe, District 5 sandwiched by District 2, and the eastern end of the valley, which is also gerrymandered in ways that really beg for resolution. And so you came to, of course, the 3 maps you were presented with. And Dr. Urrutia was listening really to the procession of public comments, and observed that, in fact, you could really resolve most people's difficulties by taking the eastern half of map 1B and stitching it onto the western half of map 2, which gives you this map, which he has submitted to you a week or so ago. The deviation is 9.4%, and this is the opportunity. So, and that's what it looks like. It, as you can see, knits together the Southeast LA community with the downtown and Koreatown, and ties together the East LA with the Northeast LA. I think you're familiar with these issues. Also at issue is the South Valley here. So let me go to
if I can interrupt, I'm still seeing the maps that we have, the 1A, 1B, and 2, not a draft submitted.
You're not able to see my screen?
I'm able to see the screen, but we're still on page 1 of the presentation.
Oh, golly, I've been scrolling through. Thank you for letting me know. So this is not showing up, page 2?
Oh, just click on the next slide. Can you go to the next?
Does that change for you?
No.
No.
Maybe you may be showing the wrong screen.
Maybe. How's this? Is this? It says resume share on the bottom of mine, so it sounds as if here. Let me stop share. And
I think you're showing us the wrong presentation. You're showing us a different document than the one that you're scrolling through. There you go.
Okay. So this was the demonstration of the LAUSD size compared with the city of Los Angeles. It's in fact larger, and a comparison of the entities, 7 within LAUSD and 15 in the city of LA. The difficulty of resolving this 10% threshold with such large subsections, and the opportunity to correct these boundaries with the gerrymandered 5 and 2 in our face, Atwater District in the South Valley, and the Gardena here. Are you able to see this better now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Am I going too quickly? Okay. So then there's the opportunity of knitting together the eastern half of map 1B with the western half of map 2, which Dr. Urrutia listening to the conversation that was brought from the public, feels that that really resolves many people's issues and comes up with this viable map, which is a 9.4% deviation. Looks like this. These are the numbers. I believe you probably have them in front of you. It might be slightly easier to see. And here's a slightly larger picture of this map that he has generated. Hopefully you can see this, so you'll let me know if not.
Yeah, we've got everything now, Sarah. So it's going great.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's see if I change. Can you see this that I just switched back to the three maps?
No.
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 Yeah.
All right. So let me do it again. I think that it really doesn't like if I change. How about this? Can you see this now?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't like when I shift between pictures. This is sort of where I took off from Dr. Urrutia's map, you know, observing that the difference between 1A and 1B is wholly contained.
So
in
sorry,
this-
I just wanted for timing purposes, are we done with the first presentation and moving on to the
Sure,
second presentation?
sure.
Well, it's
Does that
50
work?
minutes total, right, Andrew? Just to be clear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, and she's only 6 minutes in, so she's got plenty of time.
Oh, okay, I thought it was each. Okay, that makes sense.
I hope, did you have questions on the map that Dr. Urrutia has presented?
Why don't we take questions at the end, Sarah, so we can get through the presentation first?
Okay, so my observation in trying to understand what I'm sure you are all intimately familiar with since you've been dealing with this a long time is to understand the difference between these maps that you were presented with. The difference between map 1A and 1B is solely contained in this difference here between at the interface between between board districts 2 and 5. There are 3 communities here: Northeast LA, East LA, and Southeast LA. And the issue on the table is how to divide things without taking from Peter and giving to Paul. So in both of these, map 1, you've really severed Northeast LA. And the question is, to the extent to which you wish to deliver some portion of it to East LA, or share some portion with East LA and share some portion with Southeast LA. That's the distinction. And you wind up with this gerrymandered sort of finger sticking into the beyond here, which loses many of the synergistic sort of communities of interest within Northeast LA. This map 1B is the component that Dr. Urrutia chose to combine to his you know, annealed map of the 2. Then the distinction between both 1A and 1B and 2 is, apart from the Gardena, which is fairly uncontroversial, there's the question of what happens in the South Valley. So in the maps 1, Board District 4 is knit together with the western half of the valley. And in map 2, Board District 4 is knit together with the eastern half of the valley. And that configuration aligning with the eastern half of the valley is what Dr. Urrutia put together in his map, which is here, the second one on this sheet. On the left here is a poor quality, I apologize for, a picture of the current configuration of the districts. And here's Dr. Urrutia's compromise, you know, annealing these 2 together. When I look at this, I am concerned a bit with the gerrymandered finger here, and and in particular the sort of physical barriers that are presented between the interface with Board 2 and Board 5. There's the LA River, which is a significant geographical barrier, and the railway yards. I'm not sure if you can see this. Is the quality poor? The quality's poor?
Mm-hmm.
Let me stop sharing for a second and go back to the DRA, which, can you see this better? Can you see this? Yes.
Yes.
So this is the Dr. Urrutia's map, and it shows a sort of violation of some of the important physical constraints that are present between Board District 2 and 5. Here's the LA River, which is obviously geographical barrier, and there's a large set of train tracks here, which really separates the north from the south. Another problem with this map is this gerrymandered finger that's sticking up, and of course the split of Gardena. So I made a, can you see that did it switch to the new map comfortably?
Yes, it did.
Excellent. So this is the map that I've suggested as mine. It knits together the communities of interest in Southeast LA. It keeps together Cudahy and Huntington Park and Southgate. It respects this physical barrier with the river and the railways. It loses the gerrymandered finger and keeps together these communities of interest. It stops shy of Atwater Village, but it holds together a good portion of these synergistic communities, really without washing out the Latino population and the long-term political constituency that has been carefully, organized. It works in the south of Board District 1 to keep Gardena together. It pulls a little bit, these yellow lines that are here are, the purple lines are feeder patterns. So I tried to respect these feeder patterns. It holds the feeder pattern together here. The yellow lines for interest are the LA Times, the mapping project of neighborhoods, which are, it's a good start. They're not set in stone. But I use those, for example, to help solve this problem here in downtown LA and get enough population into Board District 3 and keep the deviation. If you move to the statistics here, the deviation is under 10%, it's 9.6%. I know that what's really of concern also is the proportion of Latino populations in each of these districts. We can look at these. If we want to take a look at 5, you will see it in this setup. The Hispanic population is above 50%. It's at 51 and 52%. And if you want to look at Board District 2, it remains at 65% in this setup. I think it's a good solution in terms of the trade-offs between holding communities of interest together and respecting these physical barriers, which are really very insurmountable. I don't know how you could have a child cross these railway tracks or the river. And there you go. So that's before you. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions from the commissioners?
Can I just say that Dr. Urrutia's effort, his map, was really intended to not be controversial. It takes your maps 1 and maps 2 and puts them together and doesn't appreciably change any endpoints. And so I've also not appreciably changed any endpoints. I've just sort of smoothed over some of the problems, but really tried not to change anything significantly from the map, basically from the maps 1, 1A, and B, and 2 that you were presented with.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions from commissioners. I have Vice Chair Ambrose, Commissioner Way, and Commissioner Johnson, and then Commissioner Lundquist in that order.
Oh, actually, I refined my question based upon the information that we were just given, so I'll take my hand down.
Okay, great. So Commissioner Way.
So I think that really what we're seeing here is that it would have been amazingly awesome if we had actually had a reasonable amount of time to spend on the maps. We've taken a lot of public comment, which is terribly important, and not really had any time to do anything with it. So I appreciate very much the efforts that have gone into this. It makes a lot of sense. I really feel like we need some time to cogitate over it and think about it. And I would really like the public to spend some time looking at this a lot of the comment has been based on, unknowns. And if we have people able to look at a map and say, I see what this is now, what is this? How does this impact my community? And how does it impact surrounding communities? I think that would be a useful thing at this point. But I'm very appreciative of the work done here, especially in considering those physical barriers, those freeways, the LA River and railroad tracks and so on, that you're right, you're not going to have kids crossing those. So anyway, I look forward to everybody's comments.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I too appreciate the fact that we've been talking about some kind of compromise map for the last few meetings. And so I appreciate the fact that someone has come up with a compromise map. I guess my question would be a couple of things. One, we have presented 3 maps, and there are 2 more now, it's my understanding, to consider. So I'd like to know if there is a particular number. Is this, we've got 3, 1A, 1B, 2. So would this be map 3 and map 4 to look at? And also, I guess I agree with having the public look at it, but I guess my concern is, what is our time frame in allowing them to really have a, deep dive into this compromise map? Given the fact that our next meeting, is my understanding, is we were supposed to come up with a recommendation for a final map to move to the council. So, if we can get those questions answered. But I think because we've been talking about a compromise, that we certainly should be taking a look at these compromise maps that have been presented to us. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, just to respond a little bit to your questions, the public map submissions are available to the public on our website under the public map submissions tab. And so all 3 maps that have been submitted to this at this point, Ms. Bruce's map, as well as Dr. Urita's 2 maps that he submitted, are all available on our website. At this point, they're not considered draft maps or final map recommendation from the commission. Certainly the commission can direct staff to look at these things if they choose to when we get to item 3.
Can I just make a comment that Dr. Urrutia's first map that he violates the 10% rule, so that's really probably out of the running. So there's really only one from him.
Yes, no, thank you, Sarah. I would agree with Ms. Roos on that point. I think the deviation in Dr. Urrutia's first map was about 40%.
Okay, can I have Commissioner Lundquist and then Commissioner Hernandez?
First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of the members of the public who've, taken this extra time to look at this and submit draft maps. For, everyone who submitted something. It's quite a bit of work that goes into it. So I want to say thank you. I wanted to ask Ms. Roos about this map. So in particular, the physical barriers that you were talking about, the LA River. Is it the case that the high school attendance zones, or what you were calling the feeder patterns, does cross the river, so that we do have folks from one side of the river nominally attending the high school on the other side of the river? Is that?
It does appear that way. I think you'd have to ask somebody who lives there to know what happens in practice, but these purple lines are the feeder patterns to the high school, and they do cross that river. The yellow lines are the LA Times neighborhood mapping project. So culturally, they see that distinction.
And that yellow boundary that is the LA Times neighborhoods is also where the river is in that location.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And also, can I just ask, it seems like I just want to clarify. So you have labeled the district with the southeastern part of LA there as District 2.
Correct. Thank you. Yes. your map 1B essentially flipped the characteristics, the cultural characteristics of 5 and 2 to some extent, and I unflipped them. So this is semantic. But I do think of 5 as incorporating Northeast LA. And so I flipped those labels back. Thank you for pointing that out. And kept 2 to continue from Southeast LA, which is unified up through downtown and including a portion of Koreatown.
Thank you. And I just want to echo some of the previous commissioners who have highlighted that that there are compromise solutions. I think that we should be considering compromise solutions, and I believe that there's room in the schedule to add another public input meeting to get more comment from the public on a possible compromise, or maybe even more than one possible compromise that we might want to put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lundquist. Commissioner Hernandez?
Mr. Chair, before we proceed to the next one, Commissioner Lundquist, I just wanted to point out that one section that we were talking about, which is basically between Alameda and the Los Angeles River, covering the Arts District and Boyle Heights right there, that's all part of the Roosevelt High School attendance zone. And so that's why in the draft maps, we use Alameda as the boundary as opposed to the river. But that's the area that you can see there that Ms. Roos added to that particular district.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hernandez and then Commissioner DeHaan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sarah, for this presentation, and for all those who have submitted a map. I have 2 questions. So one, Sarah, can you share the CBAP data for this map?
The deviations? Oh, yes, I can. Well, you may have better tools than I do for that. So what I can do is share it only district by district. Do you want to see, say, 5 and then 2 sequentially? I can do that, but I don't know how to bring them all up in the nice groovy overall statistics.
Sure, if time allows for it, I don't see a problem with that.
Well, you guys are in charge of time. So here's 5, and its CVAC numbers are as follows. If it's the Hispanic, you're interested, these are my 5. I hope I'm still in my, yes. So the Hispanic is 50.2%. Asian is 14.3, white is 30.1 in the 5 that this doubly compromised map represents. I guess what we could do is take a screenshot or something. Shall I go now to 2? Please?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so 2 shows somebody, I hope somebody wrote down those numbers. Hispanic is 64.5, white at 11.2, and Asian at 13.8.
That's VAP. That's VAP. I think it's the one above.
Oh, you want the voting age population?
Yeah, that's CVAP.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so here, the voting age population is 70% Hispanic, less than 9% white, and 14.4% Asian. And I think those are the numbers that are used for the deviation statistics, right? So those I can show you in one fell swoop. Takes my computer a second. There you go. So these are the deviation, and I believe they use the VAP numbers here. So here you can see all the ethnicities together, although let me see. Oops, shoot, I'm so sorry. Hold on, let me find it. Let that go away.
Okay. Any other questions, Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes, there was another, sorry, Sarah, thank you again for that.
Sure.
So my other question is, there was a mention of another map that was submitted and don't see it online. Is there any way to make that available for us so that we can take a look at that as well? I want to make sure that all iterations and recommendations are on the table. We're talking about time, and definitely we're coming up, on this time crunch. I just want to make sure that all maps are considered, and I'd like to see what was submitted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so,
I don't want to take time away from Sarah's time, because that's like a different, and do you want to answer that after we finish with this presentation?
Sure, be happy to.
Yeah, okay, cool. Commissioner DeHaan?
Hi, sorry, I'm with toddler. Sorry, so this is related in that, well, so first of all, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time to put this together and presenting to us. I think I had similar questions about, similar questions to Commissioner Hernandez about the numbers, but I'm wondering if any maps we consider we could just get some more of that data that we do like for the others. And I guess from a process standpoint, I think our meeting today is supposed to help us get to, my understanding, the compromise maps, because we got to give direction to Andrew and the team. So I'm just wondering if the process from here on is for us to start considering how we would take the maps we have to get to a place of compromise. And obviously would incorporate elements of any maps that have been presented to us for consideration as we collectively give direction to the staff. But I wasn't sure if that's the right process or not, but wanted to affirm that.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go into that. So that's not a question for Sarah. That's like for the next agenda item. So.
Can I just ask a question? Are you interested in this voting age population number or the citizen VIP number?
Yeah, it was a CVAP.
Mm-hmm. The CVAP. I mean, if you'd like, I'm happy to manually put together that table, which is available through DRA only on the voting age population. I can just add a line manually, no big deal, with the CVAP numbers and email it to you if you like.
That would be great. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, get it to Andrew, who'll get it to us all pretty quickly.
Okay, yeah, that's no problem.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I guess I was concerned that you were, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who asked for the map that might have been sent today. It was my understanding that there was a time frame for when maps could be submitted, because we were going to be making some type of decisions today. So any map that was not submitted within the time frame, I'm concerned that, you know, we could say somebody's submitting a map in the next half hour and we need to look at it. So I would like Andrew, I guess, to respond to that, that any map that was submitted within the time frame that we discussed are the maps that we're considering, not just every map that comes in after the time frame. So if maybe Andrew, you were going to answer that question later on. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to answer that now or hold?
Can we hold till we finish this presentation? Because I think it's bleeding into what we're going to be discussing next. So can we go to Vice Chair Ambriz and then Commissioner Johnson, we're going to answer that because we're holding two questions, including to Hans, that will be answered in the next item as we kind of go through the process. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sarah, can you please scroll up a bit to show a bit about around 3, 6, and 4?
Yeah.
Can you explain your rationale around switching out, taking the kind of East Valley instead of the West Valley above the 101?
You know, above the 101. I actually didn't do anything here that wasn't part of the Dr. Rutia's choice of taking, you know, the west half of 1B and the east half of 2. So this is map 2's section, and I didn't do anything with it.
Got it. Okay.
So I have to say, bounce that question back to you. I have no idea why they came up with that, which they did. And in the email that I sent to you, I did go further in my head. You know, if I had my druthers, I would not stop at this map. I would change a lot more in here, including that. It just didn't happen here. So.
Got it. And the overall deviation that you had across the map, can you pull that up? Was it
9.6?
9.6. Okay. And then once more back to the other map, looking at the change that the 2 and 5 section and around 7. Can you remind me, did you offer a suggestion to District 7 with that Florence Graham area?
I'm so sorry. Tell me what the Florence Graham area is. I'm scrolling and maybe someone can point it out.
It's if you move up your, yep, it's right there, right there.
This, yeah, you know, I forget, I think I grabbed more, so one's options are constrained, right? Board District 7 only abuts 1 and 2, and 1 is somewhat filled, and Board District 7's numbers were a little light. So I think I grabbed a little more from up here, but I can't remember. I'd have to look back at what Dr. Ortiga's was. Now it looks
It
similar.
looks like it's part of, yeah, it says Florence, so that's still part of
The part of 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
Part of 7 is landlocked. That's the hard
Yeah, I think I ungerrymandered. I'm not sure what that dot was there doing, and I think I undid that, so I'm sure somebody knows. So this was Dr. Ortiga's, which is in turn just what was handed from maps 1 and 2, 1A, 1B, and 2. So I made things follow the feeder patterns. And I don't know if that addresses the problem of the Florence Graham. It might, but my map here does do that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have a question. Andrew or Harit can answer this on the call. Is Harit still on? Yeah, there we go. It seems to me by just looking at the numbers that there might be a packing issue here. And I do
Which
have a
numbers?
secondary question on this too, given that there's going to be an open seat, can you switch the numbers?
Is this what you mean, the numbers?
2 and 5. So
Oh.
I'm asking my lawyer, sorry. So I'm asking the lawyer. So I just have a question. If there's, given the numbers that I see right now, there might be a packing issue in District 5 that impacts 2, or actually in District 2 that impacts 5, because you switched the numbers right now here. And then the question is, can you switch numbers given that one's going to be an open seat too?
With regard to the numbers that we're seeing here, this is something that we would need to look at if the commission would proceed with this. I can't give you a spot assessment based on just the numbers, whether there's some type of packing or fracturing claim. When you assign numbers to districts, the incumbents of districts stay as a representative of the district that they were elected from, regardless of how the lines are redrawn until the next natural election. So in June, we have elections for the even numbered board districts. And so those would be up regardless of where, how you draw the lines and where the incumbent resides. So redistricting does not affect the term of an incumbent. If incumbent's elected from 5, that incumbent stays as a representative of 5 until the next regular election for that office. Same thing with 1, 3, and 7. For 2, 4, and 6, the terms expire in June or next year, and the new lines would be in place for that. Is that answering your question, Commissioner?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I guess, Andrew, are we on time? So we could.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
we can, I think seems like we're done with this discussion, Mr. Chair. If there aren't any other questions from commissioners, we should move to the next item.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Sarah, for your presentation and being a part of the conversation.
Thank you for listening
Thank you, Sarah.
and for the opportunity. Bye-bye.
Okay, commissioners, I'd like to now move to item number 3, which is commission discussion on the draft maps in front of us, public input, including possible action on direction to staff on development of proposed final map. So I have some thoughts about this process, to
Chair?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but there was a remaining question to be addressed from the presentation of the Publix maps. There was an inquiry from Commissioner Hernandez on the other map that was mentioned that was submitted to us, and wondering if the executive director or you can tell us if we are going to hear a presentation or if we're going to be able to see that map or if it's already available online.
I was going to make it part of the process, but we could just answer that question now.
Sure.
I guess the question, was it even a map or were they suggestions to be made to a current map?
So within the time frame for public map submissions, we had received 3 maps as previously discussed, 2 by Dr. Urita which you saw one of today, and the third one by Ms. Roos, which we also saw today. The third map by Dr. Rita, which has a 40% deviation, is also on our website. When we get into the discussion here in a second, I was planning on going through a quick summary of the public comment that we've received on all the maps, as well as showing a map that was provided by Councilmember Macias to us at about 1:30 this afternoon. It's not a full map. It has suggested changes to it. It only covers a couple of districts, and be happy to get into that discussion at the appropriate time.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. So, back to process. My suggestion for today, kind of flowing off the last time, we had agreed that we would do some level of line drawings or motions in public. And so I think would be helpful around this process as we go into, we are limited by days. There was a suggestion by Commissioner Lundquist, do we add a hearing after today's conversation, which will be all part of, I think, today's discussion right now. But my suggestion is threefold. One is, I believe we should make decisions today on things that we've had a lot of discussion on related to 3 and 4 configurations, right? I believe we should make decisions related to the Gardena question, which have some level of clarity on. And then the next, I think we want to make some levels of direction related to maps 1A, 1B, and 2, and any motions to make minor changes to the maps around lines and making communities whole. And then we'll go from there. So that's my suggestions for process today. I think what we could add to, the process related to that Andrew's going to go, maybe that could be part of before we get to map suggestions around line changes related to making communities whole, or making some minor changes to a varied set of maps. But I think that's the process that I'm proposing we go about. So we could go first looking at the 3-4 configurations, so we can make them consistent in the current maps that are in front of us, map 1A, 1B, and 2. Also the decision related to Gardena in all 3 maps in front of us, and then go into these 2 to 3 respective maps around any changes that would correspond, given that there's essentially 2 different concepts, or you could say 3 different concepts around 2 and 5. So that's what I would propose. And then I would ask Andrew to, before we get to line changes related to making communities whole or attendance boundaries, that's where Andrew would present that in relationship. Because I imagine what I heard today in particular, that was around changes around 2 and 5 in particular. So that's how I would proceed. So first, I'd love to have a conversation around District 3 and 4, and I have both hands up from Commissioner Gruel and then Commissioner Hernandez.
And Mr. Chair, I'm also prepared. Staff did put together a tally of public comment, which was sent to the commission today and posted on the website. It's been updated with all the public comment that we received by 4 p.m. today.
Sure.
So at the appropriate time, I'd like to go over that summary.
Okay, thank you. So Commissioner Gruel.
And I guess I would just add, and thank you, Luis, for your stewardship. This is not easy, guiding us and trying to make some of the decisions we have to do. So thank you, Luis, for that, and kind of getting us on a pathway. And Christy, I don't know if you had comments relative to the process or not, or if just 3 and 4, because I don't want to step on that, but I was going to go right to the 3 and 4 a bit, but I was going to ask Andrew, from your, because I looked at the earlier numbers, did they change dramatically in the issues relative to District 3 and 4 in the comments that you received today?
No, Commissioner Gruel, and if you just give me a second here, let's see if I can pull this up properly.
Because I read it earlier today, but you added that.
So it was, as I said, we did receive, I think we had 407 comments as of noon today, and this was updated as of 4 p.m. today. And what this shows, commissioners, is which maps in particular folks supported, and it's broken down between the written comment that we received through the public comment form and through email, and then split out with the verbal comment we received at the 3 public hearings and we received at our September 29th regular commission meeting as well. And so just reading from top to bottom, we had 1 vote for 1A or 2. We had 3 votes for 1B or 2. We had 15 votes for 1A or 1B, 95 votes for 1A, 111 votes for 1B, 99 votes for map 2. And then we, as we discussed at the last regular commission meeting, we split out the Valley pieces of it because certainly there's different, the opinions are different over there over a different reason. And so for map number 2 in the Valley, we received 50 votes. For map 1A or 1B in the Valley, we received 53 votes. For map 1B and 2 in the Valley, which was in essence Dr. Arita's map, we received 2 votes. And then for Ms. Roos's map that she just presented to you, we also received 2 votes. So for a total of 431 public comments. And certainly if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them the best I can. Once again, this is a public comment that was received beginning September 25th was the first comment that we received in support of any of the draft maps through 4 p.m. today.
Great.
Thank
I have a question about the comments. I don't know if you're when we're gonna do questions about that presentation. I don't want to cut in front, but I just wanted to distinguish that we have a couple different conversations happening. So.
Yeah, and this was just for me looking at the ones, Anna Teresa, on the Valley map. In essence, the decision we have before us is, do you keep Encino and Tarzana in District 4, or do you move it to District 3? And District 4 has Sherman Oaks and Studio City. And so I think that's really the gist of it all in that way. And so I think when we saw commentary, there were those that said keep it just all in the West Valley, and those that said keep it in 4. And and you can take off the numbers if you want to, Andrew and Chair. I think I was saying to somebody, I know some of you also have been born and raised in the Valley, but I've lived in every part, north, south, east, and west part of the San Fernando Valley, and went to public school, and my son went through middle school in LAUSD. And I always thought, wouldn't it be just easy to have it, separate and look nice and neat, et cetera. And then as I went through this and really looked at the feeder schools and some of the other issues as going through this redistricting, and listening to all of the testimony, and I want to thank all of those people from the Valley that have done that. But I think that one point I want to make very clear, because there were several people who testified, we don't want anyone from the other side of the hill representing the Valley. And I just want to make it clear to the public and others, there's no map that does not require us, just because of the growth of the Valley, for it to have someone who represents both sides. And so that is not an issue that we can say, oh, yes, it would just be great not to represent the Valley. It's either 4 is going to represent Encino, Tarzana, and Reseda, or it's going to be Studio City and Sherman Oaks. And then I started looking at the feeder schools and keeping those feeder schools together, and asked a lot of questions of the staff relative to how does that change. And as some of you may recall, the difference between what happened 10 years ago and in this map is that this map actually adjusts and takes, addresses some of the problems of what happened 10 years ago, where they did not include all the feeder schools. And so it was very difficult for the Taft or Reseda did not have all the schools that were going in that direction. And I think even Andrew Portola now is all in this, in the one map that I would recommend, that includes, that would be 1A or 1B, but is including Encino, Tarzana, takes that now and addresses that. I think the other part of it is this. Actually, 4 has represented the San Fernando Valley for close to 30 years. And that has been part of, again, doesn't mean you always say, oh, just because it's been done, it has to be. But there has been a time, and I heard from a lot of the Taft parents and others who appreciated and the representation and felt as though they did have, no matter where that district was represented. I think the other piece that was in the numbers was that there was a 2% reduction if you moved 4 from Encino, Tarzana, Reseda to Studio City, Sherman Oaks. The diversity went down a 2% number. It moved it just a little bit. It also, if you did the Sherman Oaks, Studio City, Van Nuys would be separated. The community of Van Nuys would be separated in parts. And so I think that, again, wouldn't it be great if you could kind of divide in a way that had east, west and north, south, and because that's the San Fernando Valley is all grid. And I totally get that. But I think for the reasons I've identified and for the representation and taking into consideration all of the comments that we received. And again, some people who were represented in Encino, Tarzana did say, oh, we want just the West Valley. What I tried to do was say it was to address some of their concerns of ensuring that all of the feeder schools were necessarily in this district and to be able to be at 3 and 4. And so, you know, that as we in going with what Luis, you're suggesting and dealing with that piece today, my recommendation and my motion would be to go with, and I think this is, Lorraine, you said, you know, the movable parts. It's kind of taking whatever maps we ultimately come in, that the portion that in the 1A, 1B, or 2 would all represent, whichever one you go for, would represent that Encino and Tarzana stay in the District 4 and encompass the rest of Reseda, and to be able to do that for the reasons I've identified. So that would be my motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second for that motion?
I'm happy to second Commissioner Antonio Sanchez.
Thank you. Is there any comments or remarks in relation to this motion?
Yes,
Okay,
Mr.
so-
Chair, actually.
I just want to understand it completely. It was a little fuzzy.
I wasn't as articulate as I should have been, Gil. Sorry about that.
Or too articulate for me.
Okay, Commissioner Hurtado, do you want us to repeat the motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let's repeat the
Okay.
motion, and then we have a question or remarks from Commissioner Hernandez related to the motion.
I was probably not as good at the end. So the motion would be that any map that goes forward today, that in relationship to District 3 and District 4, that District 4 would keep Encino, Tarzana, and go up to Reseda, that is reflected in 1A and 1B.
Yeah, and it's to be a concept that we would adopt in any map moving forward, you know,
right,
in the future by, you know, which would probably be happening on the 20th.
And
Thank
I
you. I'm
can
not
do
gonna
this
answer
in
any
both
questions.
English and Spanish. See, thumbs up.
Okay, cool. So Commissioner Hernandez, you have comments related to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, with all due respect, thank you so much for having this order for us to discuss these topics. But honestly, based on what we've heard today, what we've heard in our public hearings for these last, 3 that we've held, it is clear to me, and I think to a number of us here based on their commentary, that there is still so much on the table to discuss, to figure out where this true compromise is. And honestly, this motion, I feel, is prematurely locking in 2 districts that really limits our ability to find these compromises that we're talking about. So I do not believe that that would be fair to the other 5 districts that we're currently looking at, especially given all the discussion that we've had around 2 and 5. We know that the districts that we're talking about, 3, 4, and 6, need to lose some of their some of the numbers there. 2 and 5 need to gain. We're going to need to have the flexibility that we need in order to make those accommodations at this point. And I feel like at this point, if 2, we're having heartaches with 2, we're having heartaches with 1B, and we're left with 1A, that doesn't really give us many options here. Having seen the presentation today really was a reminder to me that we need to look at these maps more, with just more time and more detail. So I would say that, moving forward with this motion would not be fair to the remainder of the process that we have before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hernandez. I have Commissioner Rapeni, Dehan, Johnson, and Lundquist. So actually, let's go to Commissioner Dehan first, then Johnson.
Oh, okay. I'll be fast. First of all, I just wanted to say, I think I concur with Commissioner Hernandez. I support you, Chair Sanchez, in wanting to take off some of the pieces that are in play and settle them tonight so that we can move on. I think that's a very, solid approach. The only thing, if there's a way to do that without locking in some of these other districts, because I do want to make sure that when we get to the 2 and 5 issue and seeing the amount of public comment we've had in numbers, I mean, that's really been the issue that we've had the most involvement from the community on, the most passion about. And I want to make sure that we have the ability to put, possibly slices or pieces or of other districts on the table if we need to. We might not need to, but I think one of my issues early on is even just the way that the ad hoc committees were formed. It was kind of like we were saying that this is like the slice of the map that you can move in order to address these issues. And to me, I want to make sure that we have the full ability to respond as best we can to the issues being raised by several communities, and I want to make sure that we have flexibility to do that. So that's my request procedurally tonight. If there's a way to kind of settle these things without finalizing certain districts. And then the other thing, when I was looking at public comment, I mean, are we registering public comment on maps that we have not adopted? Because I don't know, I assume that the maps that we've adopted more or less are legally defensible. Although I don't know that either. And a part of me has wondered whether we could ever use a closed session as we get to the end of this process to hear from the city attorney on those issues. I will end my questions there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Penny. I'm taking comments right now in relationship to the motion on the floor. So I have Commissioner Dahan. Does this relate to the motion on the floor?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted a point of clarification because we saw Commissioner Gould pulled up the comments. And so if that was, in relation to her motion. So my question about the comments in relation to these numbers for her motion is, do we count verbal and written from the same person twice? So for example, if I submitted written and verbal, do I come up on both, or do I come up just one time as a person? And also, if I submit multiple written or verbal, do I get counted multiple times? So are these distinct numbers, or that's my question, because that was just how I was looking at the numbers in promotion.
Sure, no, that's a great question, Commissioner Dahan. So the written public comment is all unique individuals, right? So the written public comment does not include any duplicates. The verbal public comment is an aggregate of all the public comment that we received, and I would, and I haven't been able to parse this out because I really need the transcripts, because I went through all the videos yesterday just to give you those numbers today, and it was a long day. But in general, I would say that the verbal comment was probably about 25 to 30% duplicative, but the written public comment is all unique individuals.
Thank you. And are you done, Commissioner Dunn? Is that just one question? Okay. Commissioner Johnson, and then Lundquist.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I guess with respect to the motion, I'm agreeing with Commissioner Hernandez. I'm not sure that we want to give direction specifically about 2 districts when we don't know at this point what the impact is on the rest of the districts. We started out, and I guess I'm going to go back to the public comment where overwhelmingly it seemed it's 1B. Now, whether or not I'm saying that we need to go with 1B, it seems as though that if I understood it right, we're saying, despite what people said about 1B, we still need to make some changes to that based on some conversations that have been had with people and the two commissioners that are kind of representing that district. So I do want a little bit of clarification on that. And also, I guess, Chair Sanchez, I wasn't really clear when you talked about the process. And I think I heard you say we would include the maps that we talked about today, at least the two that were viable and maybe not the one that didn't meet the criteria. But in terms of this motion, I guess I'm concerned that, I mean, you know, we can vote on it and it's on the table, and I suppose we are. But that would be my concern about voting on a motion that really doesn't show a complete picture, but only shows a partial picture of what we're giving direction to the staff about. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Lundquist?
Thank you. I really appreciate everyone's comments so far. So in my initial feeling is to agree with Commissioner Hernandez that we still want to consider compromise options in the District 2 and 5 region in the East, and that we don't want to limit ourselves as to what those compromise options might be by locking in anything in another part of the map. However, I do, you know, if we decide to go that way, if we do decide to go ahead and make a decision about option 1 or option 2 in the Valley, and I call them option 1 or option 2 in the Valley because map 1A and 1B are the same in the Valley. And I want to also just reiterate again for the public that we could have, you know, the way the draft maps that the commission put forward are drawn, we could have either option 1 or option 2 in the Valley paired with any other option in all of the other areas. We could have option 1 or option 2 in the Gardena area in the South. We can have option 1A, 1B, or 2 in the Eastern area, and any of those things can be paired with option 1 or option 2 in the Valley. And I was the one who originally was interested in seeing the West Valley whole and, you know, suggested 405 as a boundary. And I have, you know, there at the time when I was recommending it, it seemed like the best option. And I really respect all of the folks who have come out to, like the Encino Neighborhood Council and folks from the West Valley in particular who don't appreciate, you know, being represented by someone over the Hill. And I respect those comments, and I appreciate them. And at the same time, I could support option 1 moving forward because, as Commissioner Gruhl was saying, we're really looking at a trade-off here between splitting one set of communities versus splitting another set of communities. And we're also looking at a trade-off between having one part of the Valley being represented by someone not in the Valley, or having another part of the Valley being represented by someone outside of the Valley. So option 2 splits a number of different high school attendance zones. It splits Van Nuys, it splits Grant, it splits North Hollywood, it splits Hollywood High School. All of those attendance zones are split in map 2. Map 1 splits only Birmingham High School. We don't attendance zone. And map 1 does split the neighborhood of Encino and the neighborhood of Balboa, while map 2 splits the neighborhood of Van Nuys. So really those are the trade-offs that we're looking at here. Which communities are we going to split and which communities are we going to keep whole? You know, there aren't really good answers to choosing one community over another, as we're seeing in other parts of the map. However, it does seem like there are so many downsides to to all of those different attendance zones being split. Van Nuys Middle School is separated from Van Nuys High School in map 2. And so the feeder patterns really are, it seems like, more than in option 1. So for those reasons, I would consider going ahead and going with option 1 in the Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lundquist. Before we proceed to Vice Chair, I want to just do a process, just to remind folks, right? At the end of the day, you still got to have to vote on the final map, probably next week. We're running out of days. I know that Commissioner Lundquist recommended potentially we do a hearing. That would not be an action day. That would be a hearing day. So we only really have today and next week to provide action. We still have a meeting on the 27th, but that's to vote on the report once we've provided action, because the team needs to now put together a report that they would send forward to the City Council. So today, I started actually with the one, I still feel like if people feel like we're gonna somewhat maybe blow up the map a little bit to solve the 2 and 5 issue, you still have the ability to do that. You still have to vote on the final map. But I do feel we have to give some level of direction in places where people have done a lot of work. And there's been some level of like, you're only talking about this border region, right? That you're talking about that doesn't hit maps on the other side, right? So at the end of the day, you still have to vote on the last map, which, everyone has their vote, one person, and you could still choose to vote something differently. But I do want to give our staff some level of direction on something that we really dug into and looked at what's the best option for that border region of 3 and 4. There might be another map concepts that would move forward that would put that at risk. But as long as we've essentially had a variation of the map that looks pretty much the same in all the rest of the districts. So that I want to make some level of agreement that we could move forward so the staff could, if we end up doing a public hearing, that this is something that we would move forward and we would hear public comments on. So that's just in terms of process, because I don't want us to not make some level of decisions where we're getting close to decision making, especially next week. So this is some level of direction we have to send to the staff. So I want to go now to Vice Chair Ambriz, Commissioner Hurtado, and then Commissioner Franco.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I also appreciate that you're kind of moving us in the direction to make sure we're meeting our deadlines. I just had a clarifying question, and mostly it's for the executive director around this motion. That area that we that Commissioner Gruhl is recommending to keep whole, which I also do understand, and I think we all are interested in keeping the community of schools together, and I think that would make sense. Just wondering, Executive Director, do we know the population estimates of that community in that region? And I believe this is right, but please correct me if I'm wrong. District 4 generally needed to lose population numbers around, was it 39,000 or so? It's 2 clarifying questions for the amendment and for the director.
So give me a second. Let's see if I can pull up those.
And if you don't have it right now, we could keep going, Mr. Chair, and then the executive director can provide it anytime.
So Vice Chair Ambriz, can we come back to you? Because we still have a bunch of folks commenting on this motion before we vote on it. Is that fine?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. Commissioner Hurtado.
Yeah, so thank you. So first of all, to Commissioner Gruhl, I really appreciate that you're trying to put at least one piece of the puzzle together, right? You could put a puzzle of 500 pieces and we can't put one of 7 pieces in weeks, right? And we have 13 commissioners all working, trying to reach an agreement. The only one I ever agree with is me, and I've been wrong once in a while. So I can imagine the challenge we're having. Over the last few weeks, we've been hearing a lot of public testimony, and the biggest concerns are in area 2 and 5. Today I heard some testimony about, the impact of changing certain things, how negative it would be. I just want to make sure that people understand that I have a sister who teaches in District 2. My brother-in-law teaches in District 2. My other sister teaches, I think it's in a little sliver that goes through the horseshoe. That if she just takes a step over to the east, she will be in District 2, but she's in District 5. My point is, I have a lot of family and friends who are in that area. Nothing that I'm trying to do is intended to hurt any of them. I wish they would understand that. And one of the things that I heard tonight from various speakers from Southeast Los Angeles is that, you know, we've been talking about maps 1A and 1B, mainly focusing on 1B, but tonight I heard a little bit different. They're more interested in leaning toward 1A. And I understand there was a map sent to Andrew. Is that correct?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, Commissioner Hurtado, Huntington Park Councilmember Macias had sent I wouldn't really call it a map, but some suggested changes on a map to us about 1:30 this afternoon. And I'd be happy to share that if you'd like.
Yeah, and well, it's up to the chair to.
I mean, I had a process that we wanted to do it.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying. It's not,
Cardina, yeah.
Andrew's not going to get direction from me. It's going to get it from you.
Mhm.
But the whole point I'm trying to get at is this conversation, and tonight, the councilwoman from Huntington Park mentioned what to me sounds like a compromise. And from what I've been hearing from members of Southeast Los Angeles, that is a very doable thing, leaning toward 1A with some minor changes. And my concern is, again, I appreciate the clarification on the motion. I don't know if it was second, I don't recall. But I don't know that we can set something that says, okay, we're going to leave this, whatever happens, this is going to be left alone. I hope that the recommendations that are being made by the councilwoman from Huntington Park won't have a negative impact, but in tying something already and basically saying, no matter what happens from this point on, this is going to be left alone. I don't know that it's prudent to do that at this point. Although I appreciate the effort. Again, you have to start a puzzle with one piece and then you've got to go around it. But this puzzle requires that, you know, you cheat a little bit, right? You cut a little bit of a piece to make it fit. And so again, I thank you for the clarification, but I think it's a little bit too premature to really vote on that part of it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hurtado. Commissioner Franco?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chair. I think I just wanted to second Commissioner Hernandez and part of the conversation we're having here. I think my concern is the perception of it, you know, that we're kind of binding ourselves to specific, you know, adopting specific changes, right, or giving specific direction. And I don't know if maybe there's room, because I'm hearing, you know, a lot of the same sentiment from a number of colleagues, right, for there to be an amendment around, you know, this is not going to bind us, or you know, proposing an alternative to this conversation, right? So in an effort to move forward. But I do agree, I think we've heard, you know, feedback tonight for possible kind of changes to even some of the maps that we have, right? And I know we have all acknowledged collectively, you know, that it does feel like it's become this, you know, District 2, District 5 conversation, right? So I think in an effort to just really have this larger conversation, I don't think that it's best for us to kind of put ourselves in a position where we're kind of adopting something without being open for what the other potential changes may be once we get to those districts.
Okay. I mean, there is I probably would like to vote on the motion in front of us, and then maybe unless Commissioner Gruhl wants to accept it with a friendly amendment with the caveat based on, like, if the map, you know, that's the only thing I would say, but I would leave it up to the person who proposed the amendment.
I would just, I mean, I would say, and since he seconded it, Antonio, to say something, but then I would like to ask a question, because I totally hear what everyone's saying. So I do want to make a comment before the vote happens.
So Commissioner Sanchez.
I do. Thank you for that. Thank you for everyone for your comments. I would like to mention, you know, agreeing with you, Mr. Chair, about the process and how we move forward. And there will be a time where we do have to draw the lines and move one map forward. And I do think that it's helpful for the whole process to start making some decisions today, so we can get those reactions, and we can move a specific, somewhat of an ideal, right, big picture map forward to hear from the public. I mean, the funny thing that just came to my mind right now is you want to increase public participation. Let's move one map forward. I am absolutely convinced that we'll have more folks chiming in and talking about the map if we're able to move that. But in counting the days, thinking about the process, I do think that today, if there are some changes to be made, let's do it. This isn't a final map. We still have some more changes to make if that's what we decide. So that's what I would stress, is that let's present some changes today if that's what we choose to decide. I hope that it is. And if we do have to add another day, I'm not sure that we need to, but if we do have to add another day of public hearing, let's do it. But thinking of how limited our action time has been, I would just have to stress and agreeing with others here that we need to make a decision and start moving a map forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. So, Commissioner Gruhl, I want maybe I end with you. I could have Commissioner DeHaan say something, and then we could end with your comment and question. Is that fine? Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that, and then.
So I was going to make what I think I heard Commissioner Franco suggest, which was a friendly amendment that would allow us to conceptually agree on the change, with the caveat that if at some point, as we're doing all of our puzzle pieces, that becomes a hindrance to solving other issues, then we would reevaluate that vote. My guess is that we're not going to get there, because the way the map is, there's only so, like, I doubt we'll get there. But if we are going to get there, I am willing via a friendly amendment to say we would undo it, in the spirit of making sure all options are on the table, which is what I'm hearing others say they want to have happen. So I don't know if a friendly amendment needs to be formally put forward, or if it's just seconding what Commissioner Franco said, but I rose my hand at the same time as she did with the similar thinking.
Yeah, so based on that, that's why I want to go back to Commissioner Gruhl, both her question and also if she would want to accept that too. So.
Right. And so, and Commissioner Hernandez, I totally appreciate your comments, because I think we don't want anyone to think that they're not being heard. I think I was following a little bit of the process of trying to bite off a little bit, because we have so much. And I think if you look at it, for example, the maps that we put forward, the 3 maps that we put forward, we made choices before we put those maps forward, right? So we made choices. We were going to include Monroe in this other, we made choices in the original maps that we put forward, and some of those may move, but we made some choices so we could make some decisions. So I was just trying to, I think the sense I got from a lot of people was, it really is it Studio City and Sherman Oaks? Is it Encino, Tarzana? May it move a little bit to address something that happened in 2 and 5 or in the other areas? Totally get that. And I think it was conceptually. And so I guess I would accept the friendly amendment that whether it is one of the other commissioners, DeHaan and Franco and Hernandez, I think many of you did, to make that friendly amendment that this does not mean it cannot be changed. If there's a domino effect, it would do that, but that we're giving a sense of the movement, which is all things being equal, as it looks like from any of the maps, nothing we will do in 2 and 5 will impact whether it's Sherman Oaks or Studio City. If it does, then so be it. And then there's another conversation. But I think it really is the sense of in the choices that we've had and what we had. So I'd love to have that a friendly amendment, because I think there's a process question and there's a substance question. And I think for me, I'm looking just at the little bit of substance of choosing between those 2 areas today and giving direction does not mean we can't change our mind as we go forward, but it at least, as someone said, gives us a point here. And my question was and this, I will end with this with you, Andrew, which was, is there any version in which you change dramatically in any of the maps that would change the valley in those 2 areas? Is that really the decision we ultimately are going to have to make?
That's a great question, Commissioner Gruhl. And what I would say is that the lines between the 3 districts in the valley, between 6, 3, and 4, are contained in the San Fernando Valley. And so as District 4 comes across Mulholland and goes from Hollywood to Westchester, certainly, the commission can consider looking at those southern and western or eastern boundaries, and if there's some need for change. As well as I pointed out, and as Commissioner Lundquist as well pointed out, these are really interchangeable parts. And so regardless of whether you take 1A and 1B in the valley, or you take 2 in the valley, they fit the exact same geography in other ways. And so you can certainly, if it's the choice of the commission to take, to include the 1A, 1B valley version, I'll call it, or as Commissioner Lundquist called it, option 1 in the valley, that has no effect on any other district. Now, certainly as we go through the discussion between 2 and 5, and if there's other changes, to say District 7 and 1, there may be a ripple effect, which includes, once again, District 4, but it won't have any impact on the San Fernando Valley or what's north of Mulholland Drive.
And so maybe that, again, the friendly amendment is we're dealing just with the San Fernando Valley. We're dealing just with guidance on that direction, and does not mean that if something dramatically changes, we don't come back, because we have to vote on the full map. But it would give you, I think I was just trying to help the chair and you, the team, and everyone to have at least something, okay, that we've at least given some direction. And we've done that, again, in the maps that we've proposed before. We made choices in the maps that we put forward before as drafts. And so I think this is in that same vein, and would accept all of the amendments that were put forward to make it a better motion. And maybe it would have been better in the beginning, Gil, see,
Okay.
I wasn't as articulate as I thought.
Okay, so I want to get us to a restating of the motion now with the friendly amendment. Fareed, just help us here. Do we have to restate and get a first and second?
This time.
You don't need to restate it, but I can articulate it. It's a motion made by Commissioner Gruhl and seconded by Commissioner Antonio Sanchez with the friendly amendment. This is how I'll read it out as I've been writing it down, and
Thank you.
you can let me know if it's accurate. I believe it is. The motion is that in relationship to Board Districts 3 and 4, Board District 4 would keep Encino and Tarzana and go up to make Reseda whole, as reflected in map draft 1A and 1B. With the caveat that if this decision becomes a hindrance to resolving other issues, that the commission can reevaluate this decision and make changes to it.
Great.
That's why you're a lawyer. That's
There we
good.
go. I love how you said, like,
that
I'll repeat it, but I know it's right. I love how you said that. So I want to vote on this now. And Commissioner Hernandez, is your comment related to this motion? Or is it related to something?
I just want to
next?
say, just based on some comments you made earlier, and additional time for meeting, I just want to say that we are all very vested and have been in this process and have put in so much time and effort already, that if we need an additional meeting for us to convene and continue this conversation, then I would be for it, because I do not want to feel like we've spent all this time, then we have to rush at the very end. I think we deserve to have the time for our due diligence and to continue to do the work that we have been appointed to. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's already been a suggestion for a hearing, which actually is different from an action. So now there's potential suggestion. So I'll hold that because I want to vote on this that's in front of us. And so why don't we do a roll call? Andrew?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner DeHaan?
Yes.
Commissioner Franco?
Can you come back to me? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Gruhl?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
No.
Commissioner Hurtado?
No. Sorry, Wendy.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
Commissioner Lundquist?
Yes.
Commissioner Antonio Sanchez?
Yes.
Commissioner Waite?
Yes.
Vice Chair Ambris?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
And Commissioner Franco?
I'll abstain.
You didn't call me, but I'm a yes.
Oh, I did not see you there, Commissioner Repenning. Thanks for joining us. I
I'm over
appreciate
here
it.
in my little square.
That item was a long discussion. And with that, Mr. Chair, the motion does pass on an 8-3 vote with one abstention.
Okay, thank you.
Can I interject here real quick, just
sure.
to set the process going forward on abstentions? As we get closer to other decisions, under city law, an abstention can be recorded as an abstention in the record. And if it doesn't affect the outcome of the vote, it would record it as such. However, if it does affect the outcome of the vote on a motion, then abstentions are not permitted and the commissioner would have to cast a yes vote or a no vote or leave the meeting entirely for that vote. That's part of our administrative code that applies to the process of voting at commissions. So.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. Okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Question.
Yeah,
Sure.
let's do it. We're gonna wait. Let her repeat it and then we'll ask questions. So go ahead.
Under
Rick.
city law for commissions and voting processes for commissions, an abstention can be marked in the record if it has no effect on the outcome of a vote on a particular motion. However, if it does have an effect on the outcome of a motion passing or failing, the commissioner will be asked to cast a yes vote or a no vote. An abstention would otherwise count as a yes vote. If the commissioner truly wishes to abstain and not vote on the matter, they would have to absent themselves from the meeting during the vote and therefore not even be present at the time that the vote is being taken. Otherwise, everyone that is a commissioner here would have to vote yes or no if an abstention would affect the outcome of that vote.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So Commissioner DeHaan, did you have a question? Follow up with that?
Yes, two clarifying questions. The first is I want to make sure I understand outcome means like a tie. So if there's a tie, that vote would is that what the outcome means, or like
Not just tie. For example, if you have in this vote that we just took 7 yes votes only and 1 abstention, that might determine the outcome of that motion because you need 8 votes to pass that motion.
Got it.
So we would ask then that abstaining commissioner to cast a yes or no vote.
And then my second question related to that though is like, so I'm in the meeting and I want to abstain, but we're not allowed to know in advance how the votes are going to go. And so do I want to abstain, but then I start seeing that I might count, so then I have to like log off? Like, how do you're not supposed to know the votes in advance. So I'm just curious, like
Right.
how
So
you can
right.
know. when you
All
can
I'll say is that the code here is that you are to cast a yes vote or a no vote. And if the vote is going on, you cast a yes vote or no vote. If an abstention is something you wish to do, then you would leave the meeting and not be there for the vote if that were the case. There's nothing else I can provide on that particular approach you might want to take.
Okay, I would say if any folks need more clarification, please follow up with Hari or city attorney after this meeting, just so we could proceed on the next item. So, all right, thanks you all. I know that was a hard discussion. They're only going to get harder. So the next thing I want to make, and I would say anyone who's making this motion or wants to second this motion, that it probably come with the same caveat that was accepted by Commissioner Gruhl. But I'd like to make a decision on the Gardena question around making Gardena whole. So I wonder if there's a motion either way, keep it not whole or keep it whole. And then we could have a discussion if need be around this. I would try to make sure that it's not following oh, okay, go ahead. Commissioner Waite.
I move to make Gardena whole.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner DeHaan. So any discussion that does not follow the previous discussion about how this is going to impact the map, because I think it comes with the caveat, right? Commissioner Waite, it comes with the same caveat. So Hari, can you say that? So with the caveat, so we restate the motion.
I'd like a little further articulation in the motion to keep Gardena whole in which board district?
Board district 7.
7.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the motion then, if I to borrow the language from before, and Commissioner Waite, you can tell me if I'm stating it correctly. The motion is to keep Gardena whole in board district 7, with the caveat that if this decision becomes a hindrance to resolving other issues the commission is to face, it can be reevaluated and reconsidered.
Eloquently and adequately stated. Thank you.
Great. I have a hand up from Vice Chair Ambriz.
Yes, I have a clarifying question. In making this whole, is that to say then it would stay whole in whatever district it ultimately lands? So this could potentially be, I guess, 5, 2, 1, or 7?
Well, I think the request is for 7. Knowing that the map, it's only connected to 7 right now, or 1. It's kind of landlocked otherwise. So
I don't think it's actually technically feasible to have Gardena whole and connected to another district without some pretty severe things that probably aren't feasible.
Right, so my question is the motion on the floor to keep Gardena whole in District 7 or to keep Gardena whole in whichever district it lands?
no, in District 7. With the caveat of if it impacts major changes, we could reevaluate or revisit it. Okay, so we have Commissioner DeHaan.
Yeah, I was gonna just kind of build the case, and Barry, you can help me here about the importance of trying to keep them whole in whatever iteration of broader maps that we do. And I think because it is landlocked, it's the spirit of the motion is whatever we do with it, to keep it together, it's likely going to have to be in 7 because of just the way that little sliver ends up happening. So again, obviously, if there's other implications, then this is off the table. But I think I just thought somebody should kind of make the case the way Wendy did for the Valley about keeping Gardena whole. So that was it. I think we've covered it, but I just thought that should go on the record.
Okay. I do want to add, I'll raise my hand, sorry, call myself. So I think one of the things we've been talking about creating some level of flexibility for the harder decision around 2 and 5. I think making Gardena whole in 7 allows you to go deeper into South LA in the southern part of the district. In the northern part of District 7. So I've heard different iterations around Florence and Firestone, but also you also have to think about regions like the Central Corridor, that one of the commitments I think from this commission was making them whole either in 2, 5, or 7, right? And so now it allows you more flexibility because by adding Gardena to 7, it's added population that allows you gives you some level of deviation in the northern part of District 7 that hits South LA, east of the 110 as well. So, as well as I think we all discussed, communities should remain whole. I mean, that's an important thing that this commission has agreed to. I would say this map has done the best to do that, even though there might not be some complete agreement on in particular portions of the district. Most of the map is remained whole around as much as possible around attendance boundaries and cities. So I think this one we have Commissioner Hernandez, and then we have no other comments. I'd like to call for a vote on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just want to second with what Commissioner DeHaan just mentioned, is just to make sure that we have a clear indication of why on your agenda of 3 items, Gardena was the second there, and like what led us to decide to bring and make this community whole. And I know you mentioned that, but I just want to make sure that that is clear to the commission, and as we move forward with this vote.
Yeah, it'd be good either Commissioner Waite or someone from that committee, but I think Commissioner Waite, it's giving you moves forward the motion.
Well, Gardena is an incorporated city, so you can make cases all day long about communities that are bordered by this and that, and attendance boundaries, but an incorporated city, that's a real thing. And so the fact that it's been cut in the past has been an awkwardness, and it's just a small sliver of it. It's not like you're talking about that it was, one piece, one large piece here, one large piece there. So this is just an easy cleanup. This is not a major one that makes a big difference anyplace else. I don't remember the number of people involved, but it was a pretty small number.
Yes, to that Commissioner Waite, you're talking about 12,000 people.
Thank you, Andrew.
I remember when 12,000 was a lot of people, but for this, it's not.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have Commissioner Hurtado.
Yeah, I just want somebody to refresh my memory on the opinion of the people in Gardena. I recall vaguely that they were okay with being split. So I don't know why it's something that we're discussing now. Am I mistaken on that, or are they interested in being part of the same district?
Yeah,
I
I
think
never heard I'd never heard that they wanted to be split.
No,
Yeah, no, that's a great that's a great question, Commissioner Hurtado. I think in general, we haven't received any comment about splitting the city of Gardena or keeping the city of Gardena split. What I recall is, and this has all been verbal comment, was to keep Gardena whole in one district. By doing that, you also keep the Gardena High School attendance whole in District 7. When you split it, and what's split in map 2, it's split at Rosecrans Avenue. It keeps the middle school area whole, but it does not keep the high school attendance area whole. And so I think to Commissioner Waite's point, you know, it is an incorporated city, and it's the only city outside of the city of Los Angeles that is currently split in any of the draft maps. And so I think, you know, certainly it's a policy decision of the commission. But you know, but in general, I don't think there's any issue with it, and we haven't received any negative responses to keeping it whole.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So I'd like to just call a vote now and do a roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Dahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Franco,
Yes.
Commissioner Gruhl,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurtado.
I'll go along with this one.
Oh, Gil, wait, you hurt my feelings now.
Well, I knew it. No, stop.
Same.
Yeah, we primed the pump for the second vote, clearly.
No, this is different. This
No,
is
go ahead,
different.
go ahead, go ahead. Come on, y'all. Come on, come on. Let's go.
Commissioner Johnson. The commissioner, oh, she did say she had to leave at 6, so I think we lost Commissioner Johnson.
Oh, okay, okay.
Commissioner Lundquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Penny,
Yes.
Commissioner Antonio Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Waite,
Yes.
Commissioner Ambris,
Yes.
and Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
That's approved unanimously on an 11-0 vote, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. Okay, so now what I want us to do is any amendments to map 1A, B, or 2, probably mostly around the District 2 and 5 regions in either of these maps. I do want to begin with Andrew. You were going to do some level of presentation related to some of the changes people had recommended on the call that were sent in today.
Yes, let me do that, Mr. Chair. As I mentioned earlier today, about 1:30 this afternoon, we did receive a PDF from Huntington Parks Council Member Macias, and I wanted to show you what she had sent us. And once again, this is not a full map. It's only dealing kind of with the issues between 4, 5, and 2, or actually 7. Excuse me, 7, 2, and 5 in this. But it also, you can see there's also a section of 4 there. So in general, what this map suggests is that you know, all of South LA, you know, kind of down through the next high school attendance area, including all of Florence and Firestone, would be added to District 5. It's also suggested in this map that you would add Koreatown to District 5, and that all of the Hollywood area would go to District 4. This doesn't provide any indication of what you would do with District 7, which would certainly make major changes to the southern portion of District 1 when you're losing that much population in South LA, as indicated in this map. And so in general, I'm happy to answer any questions about it. But as you can see, that's in essence what was suggested with this PDF.
I have a question before I call on some commissioners. This is just concepts, right? This isn't, we don't know the numbers related to how does this impact population, and within the deviation of 648K we have to have per district, and And then just the VAP and CVAP numbers related to this, right? This is just conceptual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I can tell
Beyond the
you.
impact to other districts, I'm also thinking about the impact to just numbers, yeah.
Yeah, so in general, just thinking about the numbers, right? In Koreatown, in that section that's labeled 5 up above, that's 100,000 people right there. And so, and I would imagine that in this section of 5 that is being suggested added in South LA and Florence Firestone, you're probably talking another 150,000 people. And when you're only taking out Los Feliz, which, you know, and this is just estimating, I'm going to say that's probably at most 20,000 people. That doesn't get anywhere close to a District 5 that's based on population or deviation. As I mentioned before, you're also talking about major disruptions to the current draft maps with respect to District 7, District 1, and District 4 to make this work.
Okay, thank you. So I have a couple commissioners' comments here. So I have Commissioner Hurtado, Commissioner Franco, and then Commissioner DeHaan.
Okay, so actually I was the last one to raise my hand, but that's okay.
I saw you raise your hand first. That's why you raised your hand.
And then I wanted to hear the presentation.
Okay. So,
but that's okay. I'll go. Look, so here's the deal, right? I think that a couple of things that we have to take into account. Number one is map 2 defensible in court. And I don't know if our attorneys are prepared to address that, because I've heard a lot of commentary over the last few months on that. And if it's not defensible legally, you know, we need to move on from that. So again, I'm throwing that part out. The other is, you know, we've been pushing, when I say we, and I'll share this with you, when I first started on this and I saw the map 1 and 2, I really was not going to be comfortable supporting map 2, knowing that it was going to basically stay the same with some little tweaks here and there. That was not going to make me feel comfortable. So when I started pushing for map 1, I had no idea at that point. I had just had brief conversations with some folks from the Southeast Los Angeles area, but I had no idea how they felt. I started thinking, what if I'm pushing in this direction and all the people from Southeast LA say, what are you doing? That's you know, insane. But once they started chiming in and saying, yes, this is the direction we want to go, now I knew I was on the right path. That being said, I'm concerned about continuing having discussions about map 2. And I understand that there's a lot of people in that area that are concerned of losing what they feel they have, but they don't know that they're going to lose anything at the end because they haven't tasted it. But what I do know is leaving map 2 the way it is still going to keep the people in the Southeast area the way they have been in the last 10 years. And that we should not even consider. So I'm going to really urge that we start considering looking at maps 1A and 1B. And with the commentary that I heard today that people are leaning toward 1A, it's coming from a group of elected officials that sit together at a round table and they hash these things out. These people represent the Southeast Los Angeles area, and their intentions are good. And it doesn't hurt us here in Southgate. I think what they're trying to do is really a very positive thing. I think we need to go in that direction. Now, at the end, I know we're just an advisory board, and the City Council of Los Angeles is going to make the final decision. I want to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing here. If we go in with a lot of, you know, with just a consensus, they're going to feel that, you know, they weren't even united in this. Let's go in this direction. They're going to go in a different direction. I feel we have to come as close to unanimous on something if we're going to make a difference. And I think to continue to hash things out on map 2 is just not going to lead anywhere. I won't be able to support that. And I don't think a lot of the people in the Southeast area are going to be happy with that. So with that, I think instead of just focusing on what things we should keep together at this point, like what we just did in these other 2 motions, I think we need to start discussing what pieces of this puzzle don't belong here. This is from a different puzzle. and let's eliminate it. And I think we need to start pushing in the direction of moving out a map that it's gonna leave things as bad as they have been for 10 years, for another 10 years.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hurtado. Commissioner Franco, Commissioner Dahan, then myself, and then Commissioner Rapeni. And
Thank you,
then
Chair.
Commissioner Lopez.
Appreciate it. I think, when we began this work, right, I think there was the sentiment from a number of us, right, that, and I specifically recall we all kind of had the same sentiment around the injustice that is MAP, the current, map for District 5, and the challenges that has, created for the Southeast LA community. So I think in that, sense, right, as I look at some of these pieces, right, and also recalling that, we have made these conversations around, it does feel right, like we're putting, District 5 against District 2 and trying, our kind of collective understanding that there's going to have to be some compromises here. Really looking at, feeling the same way as Commissioner Hurtado, right, in terms of, MAP 2 is not something that I think I would personally be able to support, just giving the community feedback that we have heard. But really looking to, I know, Andrew, you showed this map that came in, right? I do hear you, that was my questions around population, and because there's different concept changes, right? Even thinking about like, what does that mean in terms of once we create an actual map, right? But I also know that there was a presentation that we had around the other map that Ms. Sarah provided, right? So, maybe there's, an alternative that we can move forward as we look at these maps.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Dahan.
So I'm going to start with, I feel like I'll start from a personal place of like, I was born and raised in Echo Park. There used to be 2, and then it was 5, and now I don't know where we'll be, but I live in Mount Washington and nobody wants us here in either of those 2 places. And I'm gonna get a little emotional because I grew up, I know what it's like to go to Belmont High School. I know what it was like to fight for more schools to be built. I know what it was like to then fight for these new schools to actually have good things happening inside of them. And I'm very emotionally torn because I have seen the power of Board District 2 and what it has accomplished and how it's changed the conversations at LAUSD. So that I was one of 336 who graduated out of a class of 1,200. Like Board District 2 has completely changed what's happened in the Belmont community. And so like, I have that tie, but I also know what it's like to be like the Southeast cities and to feel unrepresented and what it was like when I was at Belmont and felt like we didn't have enough voice to make change happen. So I feel very, very torn to be in a place where it's feeling like we're having to pick between 2 communities. And I still am trying to navigate where that's at. But I do think that we still have time to get to compromise. And in that spirit, I feel like we have to start narrowing down where we're going. And I'm hearing a lot towards 1A, but I'm not in a place yet to say that we don't have 2. But I feel like we need to at least narrow down between 1A, 1B, and 2 to force us to get to compromise. And I think keeping 2 in play until we make a final vote, I almost feel like it keeps us accountable to keep pushing ourselves to get to better. My concern is if we just narrow ourselves down today and then we make a final decision next week, we're not going to allow ourselves to fully push ourselves to get to where we want to get to. And so I would move to narrow us down to 1A and 2, and obviously there'll be other motions on how people want to play with that, but I just think we have to start kind of narrowing it down. And it seems consistent with public comment that people are willing to go down the path of 1A, and I'm really open to learning more about between 1A and 2, how we start to like move those pieces around. And that all comes from a place of feeling like we're not anywhere near having clear direction on where people are. And I did participate in all 3 public hearings. And I will say I heard the same voices on both sides at both meetings. And so if it was a numbers game and certain things, like, yes, I heard more from one side than another. I'm not even going to say because I don't want to make that a thing, but like, we're hearing the same people over and over again. And I feel like Commissioner Sanchez said it earlier, like, people aren't going to turn out until they feel like there's something there for them to turn out to. But I also don't want to limit us, which is why I really think we should start making choices between 1A and 2.
Thank you, Commissioner DeHaan. So I'm going to call myself and then Commissioner Rapeni and Lundquist. I do want to make a motion. Like I've mentioned before, I've allowed, I have mentioned I've had a preference, but I've also mentioned that, MAP 1A does some things that are interesting. But I think I would want to make a motion to make some changes to MAP 1A to strengthen it, in my view. So I want to make a motion. One is to make the population of Los Feliz and Marshall High School attendance zone in District 2 to 5. I think the Marshall community and the Los Feliz community should be whole. I think that is a mandate of most of the maps that we've created. Like I mentioned before, we might not agree on how we're going to end up with 2 and 5, but we will agree that we've kept communities whole as much as possible. I want to add all the population of Angelino Heights and Chinatown from District 2 to keep the Belmont High School attendance zone whole in District 5. So kind of playing off Commissioner DeHaan, who went to school in that community. Add the rest of JFK community of school attendance zone in District 5 to keep it whole in District 2. Once again, about keeping that community whole, the community of schools in the JFK feeder pattern. It's actually RFK, not JFK. And then add all the population in District 5 in the West Adams Prep High School attendance zone to District 2 that it's actually currently in and has been represented by that area. I've heard from folks in particular, LA Promise that does a lot of work in that region, in that community schools, they want to be kept whole. And then move the northern boundary of District 7, which is now we're allowed to do, south from Vernon Avenue to 51st to balance the population, right? That's where I think the vote around Gardena, it's only 12,000 people, but 12,000 people gives us some flexibility, which to do that. So those are the motion I'd like to move forward. For me, this is really about cleaning the MAP 1A so that it truly reflects keeping communities whole, school communities in particular, and makes the map stronger. So I'd like to make that motion.
Mr. Vice Chair, can you show all of what you just reviewed on screen if you have it typed up, just so we could see it? I couldn't capture all of those.
Oh, okay, cool. Show it. Are you asking Andrew?
Or even just listing it out, just or repeating it very slowly or so. But
yeah. I'm not sure
so
if Andrew or
the public can see it
follow that. So I'll do it slowly. So essentially, keep the Marshall High School attendance zone in Los Feliz whole in District 5. Because right now there's a little portion that hits up into the Griffith Park that's in District 2.
Wait. Okay, I'm writing it all down. Keep Marshall High School attendance zone
of Los Feliz whole in District 5.
Keep it whole in District 5.
Yeah, because most of it's actually in District 5 right now, except for the sliver that was put in 2. Add all the population of Angelino Heights and Chinatown from District 2 into District 5, so we keep the Belmont High School attendance zone whole.
I'm writing it down. Hang on.
Yeah.
Add all the population of Angelino Heights and Chinatown.
I'm wondering if it may be really hard to I'm going to suggest if maybe you want to share the map on your screen and kind of point to the section.
Well, I just have A, B, and C. It's not a map. It's we could share it, Andrew, or
maybe
someone.
you can share 1A
Andrew, so
and then show the changes you are discussing.
Yeah.
Sure. Preeti, are you there? Let's see if Preeti's there.
And then I just like these are just part of my.
You've been holding on for a couple hours. But
Yeah.
let me just pull up draft map 2 or draft map 1A, and then just give me a second here.
There's Pretty.
got it. Thanks, Preeti. Yeah, you could find it. You were able to find it quicker than I could. Yeah, so if you can pull up, yeah, draft map 1A and focus in on districts 2 and 5.
Yeah, so you would start up in the current Los Feliz neighborhood. That most of it right now is currently in 1A.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in draft map 1A, the Los Feliz community is split at Los Feliz Boulevard. But what the chair is suggesting is pointing out there, including the folks that live between Los Feliz Boulevard and Griffith Park into District 5. And that would make all of the area in the Marshall High School attendance zone that's west of the 405 freeway all in one district.
So that's the first. The second.
West of the 5, west of the 5.
Yes,
Yeah,
if I wasn't clear, yeah, but west
You
of the
said
5.
405, okay,
yeah,
west of the 5.
Oh yeah, yes, thank you.
He's been thinking about 3 and
Andrew
4.
and Mr. Chair, I have a question for Preeti. Would it be possible for, I don't know, are you already doing this? You're gonna map this out for us live in real time, or are we just like referring to the different areas? Because it would be helpful to have the actual map, because for me, I want to make sure that the numbers are there, because I know that we need to increase 2 and 5 by a significant amount. So if we can try and like map that out, I'd love to be able to see that.
Yeah. The numbers are there. So I mean, you should do that pretty. That'd be helpful so that people can see it
It's
visually.
5,000. 5,000 would be added to District 5.
Yeah. But I think they're talking about the net loss at the end between 2 and 5. So if making sure it stays within deviation. So that's one thing. And like most of these changes are all about keeping feeder patterns whole. As a resident worker and someone who was born in this district. So making sure these, and so the attendance boundary B would be putting the population Angelino Heights and their beautiful homes and Chinatown from District 2 into District 5 to keep the Belmont High School attendance zone whole.
So Preeti, that's just a little bit more north there.
That's right
Yeah, so Angelino Heights is just south of Dodger Stadium, where it says Elysian Park, that's Dodger Stadium there. So in essence, you're talking about that whole section there. So Chinatown to the river, kind of, and then also Angelino Heights. So that whole section on that side of the freeway, and all the way over to Echo Park. And Angelino Heights is actually considered part of the Echo Park Neighborhood Council.
So you're talking about Chinatown, Elysian Park.
So not Elysian Park. It's called,
Elysian.
yeah, it's actually called Angelino Heights. So basically, all of the population south of Angelino Parks, right? So if you follow that red line that's there, that goes, on the south end of Dodger Stadium, then basically all that population there.
I think it's Sunset Boulevard, is that right?
Yeah, it's down by, yes.
So what
yeah,
if I pick up this whole area? Is that what you mean?
No, because that goes into a different high school attendance area. So it's everything, that's south and east of the stadium to the river.
Okay. The stadium is here, south and east of the stadium.
Yeah, so basically everything where it says Chinatown there.
Yeah.
And then the area between Cesar Chavez Avenue and the 101 freeway there. So, everything that's west of the river. And then Angelino Heights is the other kind of populated area that goes up Sunset Boulevard on the other side.
So I'm just going to look at this area for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take it all the way down to the freeway, Preeti.
Okay, cool.
The red lines are high school attendance zones?
No, they are city boundaries.
Can you pull up the high school
community
attendance zones?
Yeah. So it wouldn't, yeah, so it wouldn't include the kind of that northern section, but if you can, yeah, so if you can include everything in the high school attendance zone that cuts through the middle of the stadium, and then this other area here just to the left of it, or to the right of it.
Okay. So we can see it, and I would imagine. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, you can't, yeah, the attendance zone goes.
Should
through
we
the middle of
follow the
stadium.
freeway, or should we go all the way up here to follow the attendance boundary? What should we do?
No, so that area up there is what's called Solano Canyon. That's in a different high school attendance area. So it's just making whole the Belmont area, which is Chinatown and Angelino Heights, kind of in the south here.
Okay. I think, Andrew, you and I will follow up later, but for everyone, this is the area that we are talking about.
Okay. And then,
Mr. Chair?
yes.
So I had asked a question earlier and I never got a response. The response was, does map 2 pass the legal requirement?
Sure. So you're asking Harit, right?
No, I was asking the attorney or Andrew.
Yeah, Harit, the attorney. Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
They're pretty, my bad.
Yeah.
Commissioner, our review of all of these map iterations is an ongoing review. We have no conclusive advice for you at this time. We'll continue to monitor all of the changes that are being suggested today, that have been suggested recently, that may come in the next week, and monitor to ensure compliance with all of the correct legal criteria. And if we identify particular issues that create acute concerns, we will bring that to the attention of the commission. But it's an ongoing review, and that's as much as I could say about it right now. There's obviously changes going on even as we speak, so it's hard for us to assess what the commission's ultimate product will be. But we will engage in that review as it goes forward.
I appreciate that, because that's why, and again, based on all the information that we've had, my intention was to remove from further discussion map 2 and just move forward with maps 1A and 1B. And now we're talking about changing the configurations of 1A. And that's going to take a different approach that no one in the Southeast area has had an opportunity to look at. And to vote on that, I think, with all due respect to the chair, it's very difficult to do.
Just for the record, I think it's important. I know that Harit can't tell us whether it's legal or not, but 2 is based very much on like an existing map. And we had this question come up before, and Harit had said that our existing map was legally fine. So I guess I just not to say that I'm voting for 2, but the logical premise would be is if 2 is based on our existing map and our existing map passed legal muster, then 2 would as well, but hopefully we're going to improve from there.
Well, I want to make sure that something's not attributed to me that I might not have said accurately, but the existing map also is not one that we've assessed for purposes of going forward. Obviously, it's the existing district map is out of population deviation compliance, so there's clearly changes that need to be made to even the existing map. So we would focus on the work of the commission and ultimately the work of council and advise accordingly as to what the proposals, based on the proposals of the commission and the council. So I don't want that to be taken that everything is fine with the current map. Obviously, you have to make changes to the current map to bring it in to population deviation and other factors.
Okay, thank you, Harit. Can I finish my motion? I mean, it's taking longer because people want it drawn, so I just want to finish my motion, and then we can figure out if there's a second. We can start the discussion on it. So so we did the JFK one. I mean, the RFK community school attendance. The next one is in the West Adams Prep High School attendance zone. So add all the population in District 5 and West Adams Prep to District 2. So that's south of downtown, or western downtown.
Yeah, Preeti, if you go up to kind of Koreatown and Pico Union up there. And so, so the first part of your motion, Mr. Chair, if I understand it, is the RFK Communities of School, which is that northern kind of blue boundary that's up there. Currently, what you see in draft map 1A is that all of, and can you scroll up just a little bit north, Preeti? Yeah, so what you can see currently is that the community of Koreatown is kept whole in District 2, but not the RFK Communities of Schools. So what you're looking at is that eastern blue boundary there of the high school attendance area that would be cleaned up under the chair's recommended motion. The second area that he's talking about in terms of West Adams Prep High School is that area south of there that includes Pico Union, you know, and kind of south, just south of the 110 freeway. And that's the West Adams Prep High School attendance area or attendance zone. It's currently split in draft map 1A between 5 and District 1. It's split in the current map as well. And portions of that attendance area, in particular Harvard Heights, are in District 1. And so I believe, if I understand you correctly, Mr. Chair, what you're talking about is adding in those areas of the RFK Community School in Koreatown that's currently, you know, in between the green and the, you know, between the red and blue lines in green, and then that other area that's all in green without touching District 1, that's in the West Adams Prep High School.
Added to District 2. Yeah.
Correct.
And it really represents, actually, District 2 currently represents that area as well. And then finally,
I'm not sure I understood that. So I mean, I'm not sure if you can draw it, Andrew, but I understood the Koreatown High School area.
The West Adams Prep one, right? That's when you're clarity on?
Yeah, so that's, yeah, if you can just circle that whole, kind of go along the blue boundary of that area right there, Preeti. Yeah, it's the southern one there. So so this is West Adams Prep High School. Just go along the boundaries there. And that is that whole area. So as you can see, it's it's a portion of Pico Union. It has it goes down all the way down to what looks like Adams Boulevard right there at the southern boundary. And so that's the area that the chair was suggesting be put back into District 2. As you can see, the existing district lines is that black and white line there. And so that area currently is in District 2.
Okay.
So I hope that helps.
And that southwestern square that's in green, but outside of that high school attendance zone that she was just.
The one above.
So that's, yeah, so that area right there is a dual area. And mostly in West Adams, the West Adams High School area. As you can see, that little kind of red label there that's right on the edge of that blue line, that's actually the high school. And so that area, which is currently in District 2, and part of that high school attendance area, we included that in both versions, right? So in this one, it's in District 5 and 1A. And then the blue line that goes kind of south, just below that line, that's the rest of the high school attendance area. So those 4 or 5 blocks just weren't included in the current map.
Okay. And then the final part of the motion is this helps with both the deviation population adjustment, is move the northern boundary of 7 south from Vernon Avenue to 51st to balance the population.
So as you can see on the map here, that northern boundary, as the chair just mentioned, that's Vernon Avenue for District 7. And you said 51st Street, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So I think 51st Street is kind of in the middle there. Basically,
This is 52nd.
Yeah, so it's just above there, 51st Street. So
51st.
basically,
Mhm.
Yeah, it kind of comes along with that little cutout there, which would go into District 5, and then I assume all the way across to the 110 freeway, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, that's correct. So those are my suggestions to changes to map 1A that I believe will strengthen it by really using one of our key priorities around attendance feeder patterns and keeping communities whole. These were concerns that were raised to me by calling and talking to folks. I mean, I feel that in this map, the east side and the southeast cities are whole. So we're really touching up a lot of the other regions that I heard from that haven't been able to come to these meetings, right? Koreatown, Pico Union, parts of South LA. And so these were part of like them hearing from them around, how do we, and then just me knowing these areas, making sure that we didn't break up school communities the way we had said we would. Just using my own expertise of actually working in this portion of the district for many years to make sure that we didn't do that. Partly because a lot of these schools are actually new. They didn't exist 10 years ago, and so they're new schools in these districts like West Adams and RFK. And so part of it is making sure that we reflect that in the map that was actually was not as cleaned up even in previous maps. So I guess I'm moving that motion. So
I will second that.
Before we move forward.
Wait, I'll second so we
okay,
can
thank you. And
discuss
then we
it.
can have discussion now. So I want to go back to the next order. So it was Rapeni, Lundquist, and then I have Hernandez and Hurtado, and then Franco.
So I want to thank you, and I had raised my hand before your motion, so this isn't directly to your motion, but I don't think it's not related. So I appreciate the suggestions you're making, and I guess I wanted to say that I was hoping that we could get to, because to me, what we've heard is almost like irreconcilable differences between the communities that have been advocating. And so I was really looking for what could we do today to put other ideas on the table and other pieces. Like, to me, I see both, advocates located within the Southeast and within this current District 2, not wanting to necessarily take more than their fair share of the sort of more affluent communities in the north, whether they be Eagle Rock, whether they be Los Feliz. And I understand that from a policy reason, because, at the end of the day, these are communities that want a policymaker that's going to legislate and advocate for schools that are in need. And so I was wondering if there is an option, and I think this was something that we saw on the map, the draft map that was sent in earlier. Is there a way to move some of those more affluent communities from the north into District 4? And that's something I guess I would want to see us explore. And then this idea of whether we could, whether this idea, I think, Luis, you just added some of them, but whether there are more mixed, or more predominantly Latino communities that are on the border that are right now part of 1 or 7 that could be added, or 4 that could be added to the mix, so that you essentially, because it feels like as long as we think that this is the area that we're dividing up, it's gonna produce, kind of an impasse. And so to me, what else can be added or taken out? And I think I see us doing some of that tonight, and I would like to see us go as far as we can with that line of thinking. As I said, I mean, it's clear to me that this is the issue that is the crux of the matter for us this cycle. And I personally support the Southeast communities and their advocacy. And I also don't want, the communities on the east side to feel that they're losing something in this, or to lose something, regardless of how they feel about it. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lundquist.
Well, I also had my hand raised before your motion. And I do appreciate having other options on the table. I was, I am interested in discussing different options. This particular, plan, I'm not sure what you're asking us to move forward with. Exactly, we haven't seen numbers for this. So you're moving. I would like clarification on your motion. You're moving to add this to a list of options that we're considering. Is that what your motion is?
No, my motion is to make changes to map 1A. I believe it strengthens it. I think it gets a step closer. If people are talking about potentially having some level of compromise at some point, I think we need to create the strongest map 1A. I still feel if the idea behind the Southeast not having to, if that's one of the ideas, is this still fulfills the idea of like some of the communities remain in map 2 and in District 2, some of the communities remain in District 5. But in order to do that, you still have to do some cleanup so that actually strengthens the map the best possible to represent the interests of not only the communities that have been active, but also the communities that haven't been as active, but we don't want to split their communities because we're trying to solve another problem. Because, they all create domino effects. Like we keep saying this, right? So map 1A was created the same way map 2 and map 1A was each created to service the people who have come to the commission, right? District 2 folks, East Side folks, and District 5 folks from the Southeast, right? But in the creation for map 1A and even 1B, we also have to take into account those other communities that I would also say historically have been underserved, right? We just heard from Commissioner DeHaan, growing up in the Belmont community, right? And so these are communities that, if we're gonna put a lot of them now in parts of 2 and parts of 5, we want to make sure even when we do that, we keep them whole, right? And it still fulfills the spirit of essentially in one part of the district is NALA or Northeast LA, and the other part of the district, and in District 5, they keep Echo Park, Silver Lake, and Los Feliz, right? Which essentially would be seen as an equitable distribution of the voters in those regions. And we don't know what the future will hold, but and I do feel this is just the strongest map in terms of the 1A that we would potentially have in front of us. So that's the thing. So I've done the numbers, and I'm not sure if Andrew could show some of that. I know they're doing the stuff a little bit as we probably speak. It fits all the deviation needs, right? In my view, and it fits all the other needs that we're trying to impact, and it has less impact on the rest of the districts at the end of the day. So.
Well, I appreciate everything that you're saying, and I might very well agree with it. I just feel like I need to be able to analyze the map myself, to be able to look at it myself, to be able to look at all of the numbers myself, the deviations, the CVAP numbers, to be able to look at it visually, to see, my sort of gut assessment of compactness. And so, if whatever you've done, if we can see that, that would help. But I don't want to box myself out of having option 1A as an option, one that is something that I have analyzed, even though I do definitely want to look at what you're suggesting and may very well agree with you that it strengthens it. I just would like to be able to assess it on my own.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lundquist. So Commissioner Hurtado?
Oh, okay. I thought other people had their
Mr.
hands up.
Chair, I believe I was next.
Oh, sorry. So Commissioner Hernandez.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I believe Commissioner Waite was after me, and then Hurtado, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, I just want to take this opportunity, just based on your motion, this is exactly the type of discussion I think that we need to be having and that we should continue to have as we explore options, take into consideration public feedback and the other commissioners at the table here. And so I'm very visual, and I think the commission, we're talking about maps. It would be really great to be able to see that map and also look at the data. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable just moving forward, and not to say that I don't agree with some of your recommendations here, that they don't sound feasible and that you've done your part to ensure that the numbers are there. But I think, like with everything else, I'd like to be able to see that. So that's just sort of one aspect of it. And what was I gonna? Okay. So yeah, I would like for us to be able to see the actual map, see the numbers. And then one other thing, you mentioned Los Feliz, that you said to keep it whole and put that in District 5?
It already is in District 5, just that portion is not.
The Marshall, you said that Marshall.
Yeah. So most of it is already in District 5. It's just adding that sliver that wasn't. Yeah.
So one thing that came, I'm sorry.
Yeah, to keep it whole, yeah.
Okay, so one thing that did come up during this discussion, and that I saw was also on the map that was submitted, was that Firestone Florence area. I'm wondering if there's any way of maybe incorporating that portion into this proposed map. And with Los Feliz, because I also like what Commissioner Restating mentioned about that northern part, how we can get that into District 4, because that to me seems like it would make sense if you have North Hollywood and the Hollywood Hills bringing together that Hollywood as population and bringing in, sorry, I'm like, I need to see it visually, but the other communities that are there. What is it? It's Los Feliz, right?
Yeah,
So
Los Feliz. Yeah. I mean, that's not in my motion. So that could be a different motion, but I have a motion on the floor that was, so I would, I do feel that I will say on that one, is we have to have 648,000 people per district. That's why I asked the numbers on that. You're essentially, and we're 50,000 down. And I'm building off a 1A map that there's been support for, and I'm just trying to clean it up. So I'm just trying to make it a stronger map. So if we have another motion for a different map, I think that is, but the map 1A is in front of us. So I'm just trying to strengthen map 1A to make the strongest map around, ensuring that communities are remaining whole. I think that is going to create a whole different variation of map. That's going to impact 4, it's going to impact 1, it's impact 7. So my motion is directly on the map 1A that has been in front of us, there's some level of consensus from folks. So I just want to make it stronger, if it moves forward. Right? The same way I have
point well taken. I would just, I think we could have saved a lot of time if the map would have been provided to us in advance, but I'll leave it there. Thank you.
It's not a new map. It's the same thing like the motion around 3 and 4. So it's just little changes. So Commissioner Waite.
So first, thanks so much for your homework on this. So I give you an A for outstanding cleanup work, which that's what really matters. It's around the edges that make the difference. I mean, that's where people get disenfranchised, is around the margins, however you want to look at it. One thing I wanted to point out is that the existing map was never challenged legally. And if it had been, it probably it would have failed. But there wasn't a constituency at that point that was roused to fight it. But at this point, the Southeast cities could definitely do that. They could take suit against the district on this, and that would be a tragedy for us to do that. But having said that, I'd really like us to see what other changes we can make in 1A to try to keep 2 as whole as possible. So, this is the kind of discussion we should have been having for the last 6 months. We couldn't. so now we're doing it in 2 meetings, which I'm trying very hard not to use bad language, but this is not a good way to make sausage, and people are watching this and go like, what are they doing? Well, we're trying to get this done in 2 weeks is what we're doing. So anyway, so I really appreciate the effort you put into that. I think we should take a strong look at these and see what else we need to do to get this to work. And we need to come up with some compromise that works, because here's the basic problem. I don't think the current map works for 2 or 5. And I know we've had a lot of people say, oh, we need to keep 2 the way it is. I don't think 2 is great for the people in 2. It's just sort of concentrating, making one Latino district and to cut out another one instead of having broader representation that the larger community should have. But that's where we stand right now. But anyway, so I respect the people feel like there's something to be kept in 2, though, and I respect the fact that there's community there, and I don't think we're destroying that. I think we need to be very sensitive, though, in what we're doing and take a look further at 1A and what do we need to do, but move this forward and be done with it. And then I really cannot condone moving forward with map 2 in any way, shape, or form. It's just, we're telling people that we can do something we can't do. And we need to find another way to satisfy the broader community with that. But it's gotta go.
Okay. I want us to focus on the motion here in front. Sorry, Commissioner Hurtado. I'm not sure it was Commissioner Franco Hurtado, because I was trying to both then my motion and people raised their hand when it was happening.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I don't mind ladies first. That's up to you. Okay, all right. So I appreciate that. So, and I'm glad that you did go to Commissioner Hernandez and then Commissioner Waite before you did. Don't take it personal, even though you have Dodger Stadium behind you, and being a Giants fan is not the reason I'm saying this, Commissioner Sanchez, okay? I mean, yeah. So I think what you've heard right now is some level of agreement with your motion. No one seconded at this point, but I think the reason there's some level of agreement is because we're trying to, it sounds like we're pushing away map 2. And if we can do that, consider your option, but also consider what Commissioner Hernandez has said, and just bring those 2 maps back. The one you're talking about, because I agree, after listening to Commissioner Hernandez, I agree. The move for Los Feliz, I think that goes to District 2. If you could nod your head, Commissioner Hernandez, I think that's what you said. And was that Los Feliz? I think if we just focus now on those 2 maps.
District 4.
District 4, right? So that was moving Los Feliz to District 4, but picking up the Florence Firestone area. So we could look at a map of the existing 1A with that change, and then having your 1A, in other words, having, I don't know if we want to call them now C and D, and dump 1A and 1B. But the fact that we are reaching a point where we can say map 2 is a no-go, but focusing on what you just made the motion on, bless you, Mr. Juan. With your map, the one you just recommended, and that additional map that Commissioner Hernandez said, I will, if I can make that a friendly motion, I would second your motion with that amendment. Would you be okay with that?
I'm just moving my motion with 1A.
Okay.
And additions.
I
know that Andrew's gonna show something right now because they were having trouble doing stuff, and it was hard to do it in real time, so I want to hear from Commissioner Franco, and then I want maybe potentially if Andrew and Pratik could show something. So people said visually they want to see it. Commissioner Franco?
Thank you. So I think in general, I agree, and I think a lot of us share the same sentiment. I do want to just make an observation when it came to the other districts, District 3 and 4. I think the motion that was adopted, with the caveat, right, was something that was already part of the maps that we have been looking at, right? It was the same thing for District 7, right? Adding or not adding Gardena as a whole. I think when it comes to 2 and 5, with the motion, Chair, I think we're creating a new map, right? So I think with that, I think, it's a little different. I think the approach that we're taking to 2 and 4. I am also a visual. I think I also want to look at just what the numbers say. And then keeping in mind, I have the same sentiment as Commissioner Hurtado. There has been other, kind of discussions around what different changes could happen. So if we can maybe look at moving or giving direction to staff to create something as a result of this conversation, right? And I am hearing you to say you're moving your motion forward. I personally would not be able to support the motion as it stands.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, can you show us?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thankfully,
Visually?
couple things. We did lose Preeti. I'm not sure exactly why, so I'm trying to get her back. But in the meantime, I was drawing this during the discussion, so hopefully I captured everything that you were talking about. So give me a second here.
And then Commissioner Dahan after that.
So in general, if I understood your motion correctly, and please correct me any place that that I didn't get what you were talking about, Mr. Chair. So in general, we'll go to the upper portions here first. You talked about putting the rest of the population of Los Feliz, which is basically between the park boundary and Los Feliz Boulevard, which is all part of the Marshall High School attendance area west of the 5 freeway, into District 5. You talked about putting all of the Belmont area, Chinatown, Angelino Heights into District 5. And as we were discussing earlier, right, the boundary actually goes through the middle of the stadium, which is its own census block. And so that's why it doesn't look exactly on par, but it basically all the people in Belmont are in District 5. And then what was the other? Oh, the Koreatown stuff. This is the RFK communities of schools, right? So putting all of that into District 5 or District 2, excuse me. And then also the West Adams Prep High School attendance area that's currently in map 1A in District 5 into District 2 as well. And then, coming down to 51st Street for this boundary right here. The reason why it doesn't go totally across 51st Street here is because there's actually a school right here. And so it actually takes up more than one census block, and the street doesn't go through because of the school. So that school, which I think is Hooper, would go into District 5.
Okay. I have Commissioner Dahan, and then I have somebody. I think there was a second, right? Commissioner Waite? Do we have a second on this? Okay, thank you.
Oh, and just lastly, Mr. Chair, you can see the numbers up above in District 2. The deviation in this one is negative 0.15% with a with 966 off. And then in District 5, the deviation is negative 2.58% with a deviation of around 17,000 people.
Okay. So I have Commissioner Dahan.
Thank you. I really miss Commissioner Johnson because I'm going to make comments based on what I'm pretty sure she would bring us back to is kind of process. And so tonight's meeting, we as a commission move forward 3 maps. We got input on them. I think we could all agree that there's a large community that doesn't like map 2, and there's a large community that doesn't like map 1A, 1B, whatever that combination is. And tonight was our night to consider other maps. We didn't get that many submitted, and then one not really formally submitted, but submitted. And then all of us were able to come to the table with different motions on how we wanted to fix it. And so that's what I see us doing here. So I see what Commissioner Sanchez doing is actually very similar to what we did with the other two, which is we started to clean up around the edges to make communities whole, like Gardena, like what we did in, swapping out the valley, and then trying to fix this 1A map. And I guess I just wanted to kind of reaffirm our process is this is it. This is the moment where we have to make changes. And even if we added another meeting between now and next Wednesday, at some point we have to start talking about changes. And that's what I look at this motion as doing, is like, if 1A is the spirit in which we are going in, then how do we do it to address the concerns we've heard through this process? And so for those reasons, I'm supportive of 1A and the I'm supportive of the amendments to 1A or changes to 1A per the motion on the table. But I'm still open to hearing other people's ideas if there are other ideas, particularly if there's ideas to changing 2 or more changes to 1A. I don't think that a vote in support of this necessarily locks us into specific maps, is how I'm seeing the process.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner DeHaan. Can I hear from Commissioner Rapeni? Commissioner Franco, do you still have your hand up, or was that from the previous?
Sorry, from the previous.
Okay, okay. And then, so there'll be Commissioner Rapeni, then Commissioner Gruhl, and then
Sure.
I'd like to just take a vote after that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to express that I am going to vote for your amendment, for your motion. And I think, you've put a lot of thought into this, and these are changes that make sense when you actually bring the numbers in, I think, is what you're saying. So I'm fine with the changes that you're requesting. I think they start to move us in the right direction. I think if others want to come in, I don't think if we want to call this 1A, 1 or 1AB or whatever, and then other people want to put in other types of changes as well. I mean, I definitely support your motion, because I do think it is moving us in the right direction. And I know you've put a lot of thought into this, and to me, I think it's all, it seems like it's all movement in the right direction, which abides by our general principles as a commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gruhl?
I just want to echo, and I think Commissioner Dahan, you said that. I mean, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to narrow it down a little bit. Doesn't mean we're not going to make movements, but we've got to just start making decisions. And I think this guides us in that direction, and seeing the maps here, this is helpful to be able to do that. So I just wanted to echo that. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Lundquist?
I know that generally we want to try to narrow things down, and that is the purpose of this meeting. I still haven't seen the full numbers for this. And so, and I'm hearing a lot of people say that, if we vote for this, it doesn't have to, eliminate other options. So, I definitely want to consider this. I would like to ask if you would consider a friendly amendment just to, add this to the list of options just for now. And if we're going to go ahead and take a vote on that, that we, make this an additional map rather than an adjustment to one of the maps that has been on the table. I think that would help me be able to support it.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Vice Chair Ambrose?
Oh, thanks, Mr. Chair. I guess I have another clarifying question. Andrew, can you tell us again, and I'm sorry, I can't see that much, for District 2 now, what is the CVAP number line?
Sure.
Where would that be?
It's actually, it starts here. And so let me just read it out to you. So for District 2, and I'll go through both District 2 and 5 with all the breakdowns of CVAP. District 2 in this version has a Latino CVAP at 55.75, a white CVAP of 21.53, a black CVAP of 4.63, and an Asian CVAP of 16.72. In District 5, in this version, you have a Latino CVAP of 58.4. You have a white CVAP of 20.03, Black CVAP of 8.5, and an Asian CVAP of 11.83.
Thank you. So I just want to also understand the process. The motion on the floor is to amend the existing map, or it's to offer a new 1AL, as I'll call it, Mr. Chair.
No, amend the current 1A. I'm trying to get to more clarity. All I'm doing is cleaning up school feeder patterns, right? So I'm not changing any concepts at all. Los Feliz is already in there, cleaning it up. So it's just an amendment to change 1A with these changes. And then the second thing I just want to add, I was going to add after this, but is that I know there's been a request, why didn't we get this ahead of time? Because according, we've actually had made a commitment that we would line draw together, in front, in public, and, respecting the commission on that. That's what I'm doing here, right? It's a cleanup of map 1A. And so yeah, just answer yes to the first one and why I'm doing it this way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Andrew, can you remind us of the CVAP numbers for the map 1A as it stands right now? Because I'm thinking what the chair is doing here really isn't kind of making too many shifts. So as he's mentioning, it really is just kind of cleaning up the edges. But I mean, are we seeing a significant difference in the CVAP numbers?
In District 2, and I'll go through them right now. So District 2, in draft map 1A, the Latino CVAP is 53.71. And in this version that the chair is motioning, it's 55.75. The white CVAP in District 2 under map 1A is 22.69. Under this one, it's 21.53. The black CVAP under map 1A is 3.89. And under this one, it's 4.63. And the Asian CVAP is 17.17 in map 1A. And in this version, it is 16.72. With respect to District 5, the District 5 current Latino CVAP under map 1A is 60.26, and this is 58.4 in the motion. The white CVAP is in map 1A for District 5 is 19.34. Under this motion, it's 20.03. The black CVAP in District 5 is 7.53 in map 1A. Under this, it's 8.5. And then the Asian CVAP in map 1A for District 5 is 11.68. And under this version, it's 11.83.
Got it. Okay, so we're talking about like a 2% shift on both ends for Latino CVAP numbers. One goes a little higher, one goes a little lower. So I mean, it's not a significant shift, right? Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah, I think in general, I mean, it isn't the only CVAP number that changes, but yeah, it really doesn't change, I think, the general dynamics of map 1A and its viability.
Okay, and then the deviations that you have here on the map that we're looking at, those are that would be the existing deviation for the proposed deviation.
Correct. And I can certainly read off to you the current deviations under map 1A, but this is what it's showing you here on the screen is as it was just drawn.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for those clarifying questions. And Mr. Chair, I see kind of where you're going here. You really are trying to kind of come up with some kind of solutions for us and move us in the next direction. And accounting for those CVAP numbers, and I think is helpful for us to walk through, at least perhaps for me. I think it probably does make sense for us to kind of try to find some type of compromise here. And it does seem like this is a step in that direction. I know that we haven't had a chance to hear from the public on this version, but that's for the next conversation that I think we're going to have. So if this is on the table, and I support you in moving for your vote or calling for your motion for it, if that is the case, then I do think we're still giving the community the opportunity to give us some feedback on this. And just as we did with the previous motion, we can accommodate and adjust, I suppose, as needed. We already have map 1A, so we can kind of play with that if we needed to readjust, but I think that generally makes sense. Thanks for walking through those numbers with me, Andrew.
Sure, anytime, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Andrew. I have Commissioner Hernandez.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you as I'm continuing to just process these numbers. I have to agree with some of my other colleagues and commissioners here that after hearing some of these public comments and understanding map 2 and 1B, that we're left with the 1A and looking at ways to accommodate what we've heard and what we know, both as either having, like many of you, I too am an alumna of LUSD and attended local high schools, Garfield High School in particular. So I appreciate that we were able to put this together. So thank you, Andrew and Pretty, to be able to do this pretty quickly here. One thing I would like to say is I really would like to consider, what we mentioned about the Los Feliz and Florence Firestone. So I'm wondering if that would be a friendly amendment to this version, or if we just keep that option open and continue the discussion to continue to look at potential other variations or where that would fall in that process. So I would ask either the chair or Andrew what that would look like and how we would move forward with that.
Commissioner, certainly we could draw that, and I'll leave it up to the chair to deal with the order of motions and that sort of thing. What I would say about Florence Firestone, and let me just go down there real quick. What I would say about Florence Firestone is currently, as you can see, what we used for the high school attendance boundaries, you have the high school attendance boundary that covers kind of the Southgate area, Huntington Park, and then the high school attendance area over here. And so what we did is we really used the high school attendance boundaries along this entire section. And so if you did what has been suggested by the public, let me see if I can pull that up here. Oh, there it is. It's hiding from me. So if we did, in essence, what was suggested by the public, and let me draw this out. 5 7. Right, the area that you're talking about, and it'll come up here in a sec, is that area right there. And so in essence, by doing that, right, I mean, these kids go to Fremont High School and go to Jordan High School. They don't go to the high schools in the Southeast cities. And so you'll be splitting 2 additional high school attendance areas if the commission decided to go this direction. You're also talking about taking 54,000 people out of District 7, and that's got to come somewhere. So it's either going to come up into this high school attendance area up here out of District 5, or it's going to cause major disruptions to District 1, because you'll have to go and find 54,000 people out of 1, rotate that around, through District 4 and kind of back, or District 2 and back around. So it's certainly, from a policy standpoint, you're splitting 2 high school attendance areas by doing that when they're all kept whole currently, and it's going to do major disruption to the only district represented by an African American. And so from a policy standpoint, I don't think it's a great idea, but certainly if the commission wants to go that direction, we can figure out how to make that work.
Andrew, can you just verify the numbers for Los Feliz? How many, the numbers between Los Feliz and this Firestone, Florence area? I just want to see, have a better understanding of what those numbers are.
Yeah, so once again, the Florence Firestone area, and this is just the section that's in District 7, because remember, a portion of it is currently in District 5. Once again, that's 54,405 people. So it's, it's quite a lot of people. And you can just imagine if you go to the Los Feliz Hills, there's not 54,000 people there. But we'll pull that up here. So let's just go this way.
I mean, the one thing that I will add to this discussion is if we're looking at 1A alone, right? I do feel this is another option to create some other map potentially that creates more of a, a consensus, right? And so, but if we're looking at map 1A, which this is what I'm making changes to the current map 1A, it's hard for me to say, it's hard for anyone to say that, and it's currently constituted, that anyone from the Southeast will be able to elect a candidate of choice. You know what I mean? So, I'm not sure why we would add that region that would go against our priorities of keeping communities whole. Because in my view, I'm not sure why we would need to strengthen District 5 in this current iteration in 1A. I do feel that may be a choice in future maps. And one thing I do want to remind folks, we were an ad hoc committee and we looked at a lot of these variations. We asked Andrew before. I know they're emerging again. Because remember, there was a conversation about the Southeast being in 7, right? And we realized it's 265,000 residents. And we looked at the corners and as we kind of started looking at feeder patterns, we started realizing, well, we got to keep communities whole. So that's just something to think but I do feel this is a different iteration than the map 1A that we're looking at. So so I would want to just move on the motion and then begin to talk about other concepts. Yeah.
So then I would say then, we can move forward with your motion, but we definitely ensure that we keep that dialogue open to continue to maneuver and figure out other possibilities. So I'm happy to, table that conversation and look at other maps and with respect to timing. So, so thank you.
So Commissioner Hernandez, just to finish up your question, the population in the Los Feliz Hills is 5,166 people.
160, okay. 5,166.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner Lundquist, do you have a final point? Because we're just going to do a roll call on this.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I just bring this up. I mean, you've characterized it as cleaning things up, and there's a lot of things I really like about what you've done and agree with a lot of the cleanup. At the same time, it does look more, like a finger protruding into a U-shaped district. It doesn't, visually, it doesn't look as clean as map 1A did. And I think that's mostly because of that area, that you're stretching further in the south over on the west in District 2 there. I'm trying to understand. I assume you needed more population in District 2 because of the making the Los Feliz area whole attendance zone, and the other attendance zones over near Dodger Stadium. Can you say more about the choices that you've made to stretch District 2 further to the south over on the west there?
Yeah, I mean, just to repeat, I mean, the choices were based on attendance boundaries, right? So
you could, I mean, the attendance boundaries were.
It was RFK, community school attendance, that was split up in Koreatown, right? So that's on the bottom of the U on the left, I guess, the backward U on the left.
But this one south of that was in District 5, right?
Yeah, it was in District 5, yeah.
And you've moved it to District 2.
Yeah, but it's currently in District 2, by the way.
Well, but we're talking about map 1A, making it.
Yeah. So it was currently in District 2, yes. But so it was.
In 1A, it was in District 5, yes?
Yes. Right, Andrew?
Yes. So this area, so this black outline here, just so it's clear to everyone, I didn't mention this earlier. This is the current map 1A line, right? So this is the line that's in map 1A. And so as the chair talked about, with respect to the West Adams Prep High School attendance area, currently it's represented by board member in District 2. And in map 1A, we had moved it to District 5. And what the chair is suggesting is to move it back to District 2.
And District 5 right now has a negative deviation
Of 2.58. But this is, I mean, this area right here is very dense, right? And so if you're looking at these trade-offs, you have this area that was added, you know, per the motion to 5. This area right here that was added to 5 per the motion. And this area right over here, well, this area over here is added to 2, and this area is added to 2. And then as the chair talked about in terms of population, because if you keep the line at Vernon, you don't have 10% over, you have over 10% deviation. And so that's why he moved the line down to 51st Street.
and that one is stretching down further south. It was in 5 in 1A and is now in 2 in this amended version. That's the West Adams.
Yeah, West Adams Prep High School attendance.
And I would argue West Adams Prep, it's similar to some of the conversations related to the TAF region, right? Where they're working on a project in those regions or newer schools. They've invested a lot in those regions, and they've built some pretty amazing efforts to improve academic improvement in those regions, right? By working with LA's Promise and other providers in that region. So I think, you know, we don't want to lose momentum on that work.
Okay, but that's not just cleanup. That is something different.
Yeah, it's just an adding that region. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But the rest of it is attendance feeder pattern. Okay, Commissioner Dahan, and then
I
we
just
can.
wanted to call the question and also just suggest, given the time and potential additional motions, can we just start voting soon after there's a second on a motion, and then we see where we're at or where we're not at?
Yeah, sure. There's already a second, so we have a second. Yeah, so we had Commissioner White seconded. So can we just move forward on the vote?
She was calling the question, so that would require us to vote.
Yeah. Oh, but Andrew doing the roll call.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The meeting's gone so long, my AirPods died on me, so I apologize for that. Commissioner Dahan?
Yes.
Commissioner Franco?
Yes.
I'm gonna just stop this so I can see you all. Commissioner Gruhl?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez? Commissioner Hernandez, I didn't hear your response.
Yes, with understanding that the discussion will continue for other map options.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Hurtado?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundquist?
Yes, also with the understanding that we want to consider other options.
Commissioner Penny?
Yes.
Commissioner Antonio Sanchez?
Yes.
Commissioner Waite?
Yes.
Vice Chair Humphries?
Yes.
And Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
That's approved on a unanimous vote, Mr. Chair, 11-0.
Okay. So we're at 7:30 now, commissioners. It seems like we might have come to the end of the line. I know we have a couple other items, the outreach director's report, executive director's report. I think we could probably table those for the next meeting. So I'm just thinking wonder if we just adjourn now and continue this discussion at our next 20th meeting. There is I guess there's a question, I think, from Commissioner Lundquist and a couple other commissioners, if we actually end up doing a hearing at some point. It would probably have to be after the next Wednesday meeting, but that's a question. And I want to also have Commissioner Franco as well.
Thank you. So as I heard the conversation, right, it seems like a lot of us share the same sentiment about map number 2. So I'm wondering if we can move forward a motion to drop map 2 as an option.
I'll second that. If that's your motion, Commissioner Franco, I will second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Hurtado.
Can I call for a vote?
I think in terms of process is discussion and then vote. But if we
Sure.
want to go straight to vote.
Sorry, I was talking. So, do we have, we have a couple, so I want to start with, well, Commissioner Franco, you already, so it's someone else, right? Yeah, so just want to make sure if you had any other comments. So Commissioner Hernandez?
Sorry, no, I just I had not put my hand down.
Commissioner Rapenny?
Sure. So I personally feel that we are going on hour 3.5, and I know I was a half hour late, sorry. I feel that we should adjourn. As far as map 2 is concerned, I think, you know, as I've expressed, without some amendments to it, you know, I don't see myself as it stands supporting the current map. But I also, we've heard a lot of folks from the community advocating for specifically that map. And so I feel that I would rather, if voting on this item tonight, I will be voting against it. But my preference would be that we just keep the maps that we have on the table and adjourn. My preference would also be that we don't necessarily wait to meet again until a week from now, just because I think we all feel the pressure of the clock. But you know, I'll if that's the way staff feels is best, then that's fine too. But those are my thoughts on eliminating one of the maps tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? I mean, there was a second. So, and we have Commissioner Gruhl.
I would just echo what Heather said. I mean, I believe that it is 3.5 hours that we have been here. And I think this deserves a conversation of a little bit longer than just the next, 10 minutes, I would say, or so. And that was one of the reasons I think, for example, that we were trying to do in the beginning to get rid of some of those things that were, we had some direction going forward so that we could address really some of those substantives in 2 and 5. And so I would just echo, it doesn't mean I'm in favor of 2. It just means I think it deserves further conversation.
Thank you, Commissioner Gruhl. Commissioner DeHaan?
I'd like to call the question again, just to keep us
Okay.
moving and seeing where
Okay,
we're at.
yes. And then we could, and then hopefully we could adjourn. So can we do a roll call on this motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner DeHaan,
No.
Commissioner Franco,
Yes.
Commissioner Gruhl,
No.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Can we come back to me, please?
yes. Commissioner Hurtado,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapenny,
No.
Commissioner Antonio Sanchez,
No.
Commissioner Waite,
Yes.
Vice Chair Humphries,
I need a second, sorry.
Chair Sanchez,
No.
Commissioner Hernandez,
In the spirit of keeping our options open, I'm gonna have to say no.
and Vice Chair Humphries.
As I'm counting, it's at a 5-5. So
I've got 4-6.
Yeah.
So it's regardless of how you vote, Commissioner, it's not going to get approved.
Okay.
So, but you still need to vote.
Okay, I just want to make sure all commissioners feel included here. So I'll vote no for us to continue this conversation.
Okay. So that, once again, Mr. Chair, that fails on a 4-7 vote.
Okay.
I vote
so-
we have dinner now.
Yeah, so I want a motion to adjourn now.
Yes.
Second.
Mr. Chair, before we motion to
Oh,
adjourn,
okay, sorry.
I was just, I just want to make sure I have direction, right? So I know what to do here. So is the will of the commission to come back with maps 1A as amended, right? 1B, because it's already there, so we don't really have to do anything to 1B. To map 2, make the changes to 3 and 4 and Gardena. And that's what we should have ready for next week. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you. I just, like I said, it's been a long night. I just wanted to make sure I knew exactly what we were doing
Yeah.
over the next couple of days.
I think we all agree. It's been, but you know, this is tough work. So I want to appreciate everyone because of that. So I had a second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Have a good night and go Dodgers tomorrow.
No.
Go Dodgers,
Okay.
go Dodgers. Seagill, we're not agreeing on that.